Howdy, and welcome to Risky Standard, the last broadcast of a lost ancient civilization looped on repeat, presented in the form of an actual play podcast featuring a rowdy group of best friends playing tabletop role-playing games together. I'm Mitch Brewster, your host and Firefly for today's continuation of our ongoing campaign of the Wildsea, written by Felix Isaacs and published by MythWorks. You can find some links in the show notes to check out the Wildsea, pick up a copy of one of its many interesting expansions. You can find me over on Blue Sky at Magnesium B. You can find the show over on Blue Sky at Risky Standard. And you can also find the show over on Instagram, also at Risky Standard, or over on the show's Discord, where we're always chatting about tabletop games, unusual snack food varieties, and whatever else has caught our interest lately. It's also the best place to get breaking news about the show as it first drops and get alerted about any of our multitudes of plans as they come to fruition, including streaming. We are now streaming first Thursday of every month. You can find that over on our Twitch, our YouTube, our Discord, assuming we can get the apparatus to function and transmit the broadcast. And you can also leave a voicemail for us with any questions, any desired risk assessments. Drop a voicemail at 321-430-7475. And dear listener, we might just read your voicemail on the air. You can also find us over on the show's Patreon, patreon.com, Risky Standard, where you can sign up to gain access to monthly bonus episodes where we're playing side stories connected to our main series campaigns, world building episodes, one-offs, and other non-game content like media, touchstone reviews, some of the inspirations that we are looking to as we play with the Wildsea and other upcoming games. It's patreon.com/risky standard, and you can help support the show and help us cover the costs of making it and also having a fun, good time.
I was laughing 'cause in my head, I'm like, right, got to remember to say patreon.com/discord. That's where you can find us.
Discord./Patreon/risky standard. And that was the beautiful voice of Pete Loftus, who's here with us tonight.
That's right. I'm Pete, and in our time, you could find me on Blue Sky at chip_enjoyer.
We also have Malcolm Hall with us this evening.
Hey, what's up? Just landed in hot hell, brother. It's my Hulk Hogan impression. He's passed away, and he's burning in hell now.
Yeah.
If you want any other hilarious takes and impressions and, just sort of general wit and wisdom and, a very satirical edge to this crazy world we live in, you could go find me on Instagram. It's Malcolm Hall.
And dear listener, you're probably thinking, well, that's a little odd. Hulk Hogan died months ago.
Yeah. You'd be right. And that's why we're here to, you mentioned breaking news. We have a breaking news flash. Malcolm, take it away.
I do like the idea of doing breaking news stories on a podcast that won't air. But dear listener, you can use this to pinpoint the exact date that we recorded this episode.
Yeah. It's the day Hulk Hogan died. It's that very day.
And I'm saving the best for last, of course. We also have Timothy Manza here with us tonight.
The ghost of Hulk Hogan.
Whoa, what the hell?
Different than the one that's in hell.
Well, I'm glad to be here. And just before we started recording, we were doing some classic songs. And if you message me privately, I'll get you on the proper Patreon tier to get that mixtape released to you when we, finally consolidate them all. So I'll be putting together the best of the Risk Takers hit cover songs. You guys haven't heard them yet, but they're going to be great when they come out.
Our private songs is a really funny thing to say.
Join the Patreon today. Get access to our private songs.
And lastly, I do want to shout out our producer, Liam Doherty, who's about to say up in the sky. I think I've said that before. It does always make it sound like he has also died, which is not true. He's just not here on the recording right now.
He's not dead. He's circling at 10,000 feet in the Risky Standard action chopper from a remote location. He's producing.
It's deeply inconvenient for doing audio editing.
Oh, God, he hates being up there.
No, we really have one beat. That's the arrow lifter from season 1. That's the dart. That's, what are their names?
To make him feel more comfortable,
Ornithopter?
we've painted a bunch of basketball players who haven't died in helicopter crashes on it.
Okay.
Okay.
I'm here for it. That's a good swing.
So as I said before, we are continuing our ongoing campaign of the Wildsea today. In our last session, the intrepid crew of the Verdigale docked at the Caldermere, a bustling free port built on the ridges of a caldera which rises above the teeming green ocean of the Wildsea, the treetop waves. And last session, you guys kind of got to know the city a little bit. You each went on your own little adventures across town to and kind of trade in some of the salvage that you had found on the Wildsea, in Hex's case, to take some lessons in outrider sailing and work on his ongoing rootquake detection system project. And at
We're
the end
working on an acronym for that.
That's a lot of words. And yeah, when we had last left off, the three of you had met up together and ventured to the Mosslight quarter of Caldermere, the kind of nightlife and entertainment district that is found in the crevices of the interior of the Cauldron's Rim, lit by phosphorescent street lamps made of moss and lichen. And you had gone there to listen to some music, to the sound of Carolyn Varr and her Miraculous Spirit Orchestra, and to kind of commiserate about your experiences in the city thus far. And it was upon leaving that two things happened at once. First, another one of these ongoing rootquakes struck the waves around Caldermere, but not just the waves, the city itself. The rootquake advanced to the earth, shaking the very foundations of the volcanic rim on which the city is built, causing infrastructural damage and kind of sending the city into a panic. And at the same time, overhead, a falling star lit up the full moon and the surrounding skies, a bright, deep crimson red that bathed the city in its light as the star fell and then went out of sight. And that is where we cut off last time, right? There's the rootquake, the growing rootquakes, this kind of track we have been following, reached its break point, its midway point. And yeah, it shook the foundations of Caldermere itself with a powerful earthquake simultaneously with the dropping of this red star. And we kind of left off there. Any immediate questions before we kind of bring the camera back and can zoom in?
Rootquake and earthquake, right? So we've kind of twofold. Trees are shaking. The earth beneath our feet is shaking. In terms of is this like the earthquake of Lisbon, where it's like the whole city is sort of like shaken to its foundations, or is this sort of like a 5 on the Richter scale, like calmer, you feel everything shake and everyone's like, what was that? Or is it sort of like chaos, panic in the street, everything is broken and burning?
Closer to the calmer side, but intense enough, to cause some worries. Maybe let's and let's jump in there, right? I think, the camera, swoops back in, coming over the city of Caldermere, and we can see, it is nighttime. The city is lit by the moon, and then there are also, Caldermere is advanced enough. There are street lamps along its many switchback avenues, and some of these are flickering right now. And we can hear the groaning as the camera sweeps over of people who have been injured and of other people crying out in an alarm or surprise. But this is nothing truly disastrous. I think as our camera kind of swoops down to follow the different switchbacks and pathways that cut through Caldermere, we can see small buildings have been damaged, right? There is loose rock and scree that has slid into roadways. I think one of the Crescent Way trolleys that runs the rails that surround the rim of Caldermere has been knocked off its tracks, but it hasn't been sent tumbling. The power, like I said, is flickering in these street lamps that line the switchbacks, and I think we see, right, a crane has fallen into the thrash in the docks. It has broken loose of the moorings on the Valeport wall. But it is not like you said, Pete, it's not catastrophe. This is not the end of Caldermere. This is a frightening occurrence. And so, I think as our camera comes in, you're right. There's not panic fully in the streets. There's kind of confusion, right? There are people coming out of buildings, and there are, signs have fallen off of walls, and like street lamps have fallen over in places. There is a little bit of chaos, but it's not spreading. It's not building, right? It's just kind of the immediate confused reaction. And, I think as we kind of start to follow our trio as they make their way back towards the junction where they're staying for the evening, where all of their belongings are, near where the ship is, I think we start to see scenes of there are people helping each other along the streets here, right? There are people who are working to like pull debris out of the way of like trapped entryways, right? Pushing structures upright again in places. It is the city's kind of starting to spring into action almost immediately. I don't imagine that there's like a police force in Caldermere, but there are. I think like neighborhood leaders and kind of different. We know there's like a council here, right? I think there are probably representatives and individuals from that council stepping out, right? Work groups are kind of starting to form to start clearing things out of the way already. And so I guess maybe that's a good moment to first jump in. Is like kind of this is the U3's first time in the big city, and also an earthquake has happened. And we keep saying rootquake primarily because there are plenty of people in the Wildsea who will never in their entire life set foot on true stable earth, right? So many of the settlements and free ports are nestled in the treetops, but they could fall at any moment. They are not connected to the earth. Well, rootquake is all they've ever known. And so, I think we get to see a scene of you guys as you're making your way back. Like I said, there are, people kind of starting to gather in the streets. Some people are going to work clearing things. Other people are just kind of standing around in, shock or confusion. Probably, right? You're leaving the Mosslight Quarter. There are some people who have started drinking again, right? Have kind of an anarchic cheer in the face of this, not quite a natural disaster, but this frightening occurrence. And I think, there's also a lot of groups having like murmured conversations. I think you catch the words red messenger kind of sprouting up in conversation here and there as you make your way down the roads back.
I mean, I'll tell you, one little guy who might as well be in full panic is Calfield. I think I'm borderline. Should I mark a mire for this? Because Califield, as written, has a keen fear of shakes and quakes. This is, I think, like in some way sort of triggering for him personally. Kind of got separated from his, home city because of one of these rootquakes.
Well, I wasn't going to, but you're making the case pretty strongly that, maybe you should mark a mire here.
I mean, I'm just thinking of it, and as I think I'm exiting this building. I mean, this is kind of happening right as we're leaving the review, right? Like, so we're exiting this club, and I think, you know how ants, when they're like really sniffing something out, like antenna just going kind of crazy. Like, I think moments like this also push his lateral line. These like this sort of sensory organ where you're sensing vibration like over the limit. So he's like bugging out. And I think Calthea would exit out of here, sort of in a little bit of a visibly uncomfortable frenzy. And I've got to we have to get back to the ship. We have to find Montclair and get to the Verdigale and go. We can't stay here. This whole thing could come down around us.
Yeah, and as Cal's saying that, I think that, after things have settled down a little bit, people are picking up carts. There's probably like a gal vendor, maybe, who is like serving up some there's a pot of steaming like tea or something like that. But he sells something a little stronger, and Hex walks up and goes, "Something for you," and hands Cal a calming tea, and then something stronger for me, and it's going to do each of us good. It's like we're gonna get back to the ship. Calm down, buddy. I'm gonna have this, which will calm my nerves, and this hopefully will calm yours.
And not shit for Reese.
Oh well, I Reese, What can I get you? I think we all.
No, it's fine.
I
Fine.
I mean, I think Calthiel like looks at the teacup, like looks at Hex, and like looks to Reese and is like, "We have to get out of here. We can't stay here."
Oh, calm down. It's just a rootquake, an earthquake, a meteor. You know, this happens a lot out here, right? There's like, this place is like extra like meteors, right?
No, that doesn't happen. That's an omen. You don't. You guys don't get it. You don't know any of those
meteor
rhymes.
season, I'm pretty sure.
Is that right?
Ooh, that is strong.
Is that true?
Yeah. Hex downs the rest of his thing. Perhaps we should talk to Montclair.
The sooner we're out of here, the better.
But there's so much more to be seen here.
There's afterquakes. That's just the start.
It'd be better to be out on the sea then.
Yeah.
All right. We'll sleep on it.
I don't think that we've seen everything we need to see here. Okay, I think you're probably jumping to conclusions. I know you're scared, and I'm scared too. There's
Great.
nothing.
Now, well, we're all scared now, which
Well,
is
I mean,
why
I'm
I
a
think
little
we
bit
should
scared.
go.
I'm not as scared as you are. You're very scared, and I'm sort of like, I guess I'm concerned. Okay, I'm not scared, but I think we should really think about this, and we shouldn't just jump to conclusions and run away. Okay, I think once we are good and done here, and we are all set to sail again, we should go. But I don't think it's wise to pull anchor. I'm pretty sure everybody's leaving right now anyway too. We're gonna get stuck in traffic.
Oh, great. There's a line at the parking
Yeah.
lot. I think like Cal, sort of like straightens out a collar on this jacket and is like, looking around, realizing still, I'm a strange bug in a kind of bipedal world out here. So I think even without you guys might get sort of lost anyway. And I'm just going to sort of steal up. Let's just find this guy. We need to find Captain. Get out of here. Sooner the better. I'm just sticking with you. Cal's like visibly off kilter.
I think that's the spirit. Clap my hand on the back of your carapace.
My carapace.
Like, all right, let's get to work.
I agree. I mean, this is night, right? Like, this is...
Yeah, it's
So it's
nighttime.
like-
It is like probably like midnight right now.
I think our dear comrade Cal has a point. Maybe for tonight, we've had our fun. Let us rest. We can reassess what tomorrow is, and if the sea calls to us, we could go. We'll talk to the captain and see what the day holds. Yeah, and then maybe looking at Ix, who's over there with his cactus friend still, and waves and goes, "We're heading back. Would you like to come?" And no, nothing.
Again, kind of icing.
We'll see you there. We'll see you there.
He's talking to a girl cactus.
But yeah,
Can I
think
ask a question? Grounding context question. Is this, like when we saw this star arcing through the sky, is that like a, like hail bop comet kind of thing? Like you see it slowly, or was it falling like through the atmosphere like quickly?
Falling, I don't know how much you know about like atmospherics, right? Or how they work necessarily in the Wildsea, but it was a falling star, and I think you know this because as it fell, its red glow was also cast upon the moon, right?
So did it crash into the planet? Did it splash down somewhere into the Wildsea?
Well, you guys are on the inside of a rim of a cauldron, so I don't think that you saw, but
it's not like in whatever the common in Game of Thrones where it's like visible in the sky for like
No.
That was my question.
Okay.
Is it fast or
Yeah.
slow? Okay, got it.
yeah, this was a falling star, not a comet. I think as so far as you two, have
You geniuses.
astronomical knowledge. Not a comet, right? It didn't stay flying across the sky. It fell.
Okay.
And so, yeah, I think, you proceed back to the junction. This big multi-tiered stone building that is this kind of, rotating hostel, hotel, gathering area for wild sailors. And I think it takes you longer than it would have normally. I think there are places where the funiculars that crawl up the sides of the interior of the rim are not functioning right now, right? Their cables have snapped or electrics are broken. And so there's a lot of having to hoof it, uphill and then down across the top of the ridge and then back down the other side to this junction near where the docks are. But when you get there, I think the first thing that strikes you is that it is alive with activity, right? I think that the junction probably doesn't have like a closed doorway. Like I think it just has like an opening in the side of like the stone wall for like the main common area. And it is filled with wild sailors, right? Some of them are clearly, you recognize faces of people that you saw at Madame Zero's Twilight Review, people who were at that show or who you've seen out in the streets of Caldermere. And there are others who have clearly have just woken up or been awoken by the commotion of the rootquake, who have come down to the common area to see what the news is. A few people here are scuffed up. People are bandaging minor scrapes and wounds, or trying to repair minor gear that has been damaged during this rootquake. But it is a buzz of activity and discussion. And I think you can see Ixtobor has also arrived around the same time here, right? He has broken off. Oh, so go ahead.
Oh, sorry. Is what's taking shape here like a sort of meeting? Like, are they kind of figuring out what to do about this? Is that what the vibe is in the room, or is it like they're just blowing off steam?
Not quite a meeting. It's more like all of the truckers are at the truck stop together right now, and everyone's talking
already?
About. Yeah, right. There's a little talk about like you hear some excited voices, right? More excited than any of the voices you've heard on the walk. I think you see there's a crew across the room who are a mix of different bloodlines, and they're all kind of hunched over talking about opportunities for salvage. After a shake like that, who knows what's going to sift up to the top? We need to get out there as soon as we can. There are people talking about the opportunity that this brings. There are other people talking about what they saw while they were out, the damages that have happened. But I think there's also a portion of the room has gathered, like I said, I think this is kind of a big open common area. There's kind of a couple different, like cushions and chairs and seats spread in different areas, different possible seating arrangements. I think, someone is coming around, like, there's a tea service going on, right? Not as strong as what Hex got you earlier, but just more of a calming drink to try and settle the nerves in the aftermath of this.
I'm not having any of these calming drinks.
And I think as you are all, you kind of arrive, you can see the crowd milling around. In one corner of this common area, I think you hear a discordant tone. Kind of warbly, almost electric sounding. And then there's another one, lower. And you can see that a small crowd has started to form in one portion of the room. People are circling around as you kind of jostle a little closer to see what the source of this noise is, what's happening. There is a gal with dark, mottled gray and purple fungal flesh sitting cross-legged in front of, I would call this is like a theremin is probably the closest thing to it, right? But it's like built out of a cigar box with kind of like a wire wrapped antenna sticking up out of one side and a coil on the other side. The gal moves one of their multiple fungal limbs kind of around this cigar box theremin, and it emits a different tone, and it draws more attention. And then, I think from their flesh, you can see it barely in the air. There's like a faint misting of like pheromonal spores that emit. And you don't hear it so much as like it almost like feel it is quiet, right? This feeling of quietude. And then I think on this gal's torso, a mouth opens.
Does she look like, how the Romans said that like the people on the British Isles had like faces on their torsos?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think this is like a mouth on the torso, but I think then there's kind of like a headstock with eyes higher up.
Yeah, okay.
Weird. Yeah.
They're a mushroom person, right? The gal are fungal. They don't have to conform to like symmetry or like shapes, and they can change shape.
Hell yeah.
And so, yeah, they strum another one of these tones, and this mouth opens, and they begin to speak. They say, Sithis has tasted the memories of many mycosanctums. Another kind of pheromonal spore burst, and I think you get the sense of distance, right? The salient, the listless, the far drifter. And some of you have traveled a little bit. I think you might recognize to some degree what's happening here, or who this person is. They are, what in the Wildsea is called a horizoneer, an explorer and a storyteller, someone on the waves who recounts the oral history of the world's lore and knowledge. They remember the first days, blood, sap, and spores spilled on leaves, and again, they move their fungal limb. There's a different tone, discordant, another spore burst. You can smell the coppery scent of blood and the sweet scent of sap intermingled. They remember before the eternal pyre was lit, the conflagration, another spore burst, and now I think a shiver down the spine. You see some people shiver because the smell is smoke, right? The most dangerous scent you can have on the Wildsea, the threat of fire. And they say, there was a red messenger then, harbinger of the forever blaze. Another tone, and people start murmuring, they start talking. And this is like kind of the end of this, almost like a tone poem that they have done. But you can see the kind of disquiet start to move amongst the crowd as people start to take in. This guy was saying, to some extent, a star like this fell before this fire that never stops burning in the Great North, that has been burning on the Wildsea for as long as you remember. This was a harbinger then.
This smells like a long time ago.
It does, right? There is like a pheromonal suggestion of like history, right? Because the Gao don't just speak in words; they speak in these like spore bursts of chemical communication that, like, however badly translated, can still hit the sensory receptors of other bloodlines.
I think like Cal adheres, kind of like mandibles, probably like licking, whatever. Like this sensory array, I guess, as we're all washing over, I'm sure there's people are probably whispering or talking amongst themselves who don't have the benefit of these like gaseous communication. But if I'm like leaning over to just somebody in here, I think Cal would be like, and he's saying this is happening again.
I'm not sure. I think that couldn't happen here. And then across the crowd, and another part of the room, someone else speaks up, and it's, excuse me, and eyes and heads start to turn, and it's a young ardent man who has stood up on a chair, right, to kind of give himself the height to stand out above the crowd to try and grab attention, and he is wearing, I think, like a crossed bandoliers on his chest.
He has two.
yeah. Hey, it's the Wildsea, baby. On his chest, like these crossed bandoliers, and then he also has gauntlets that have these kind of these bandolier kind of inserts or holders there too, but they don't hold ammunition. They are filled instead with these thin, tightly wound scrolls. And I think that this young man reaches into one of the scroll like holsters on this bandolier and withdraws one of these tiny thin scrolls and unfurls it. And he's trying to put on a smile. He's trying to project as people are like talking. Some are turning to pay attention to him. Some are ignoring him. He says, "Now hear this. Caldermere has known a red messenger before, and it did not spell disaster." And I think more of the crowd, heads swivel this way. And he begins to read from the scroll hanging down. Records from the first season of the city's founding, while Garen still sowed the first crop in an effort to tame the basket. Unfurls it a little further. Garen records the falling of a red star over the site of this new settlement, and days later, the engineer Barlet, our city's second founder, arrives with the means and the knowledge to repair the great engine underneath the cauldron, which now powers our Freeport. This was the birth of the Torsion Arbor. And he lets the scroll start to fold back down, and looks like, across the room at Sithis, this Gao, and kind of pointedly, perhaps the Red Messenger is an omen for our city of another great discovery, the next step forward for Caldermere. And this person, another Horizoneer, kind of gestures to the assembled dredgers and salvagers and wild sailors here, offering a different promise for the future. And so the second Horizoneer kind of concludes, and I think it sets the room off into another round of discussion. And I think at this point also, you can see Claremont is here. He has arrived. He's come in from off the street. He's also been out and about. And I think, you see that he is reunited with Ixtobor, and they are talking, off in another corner of the room. And there's just kind of a commotion here, right? I think some of the sailors slowly start to break off and head towards their bunks, their rooms. Others, I think you see, are already inspired. They are packing up. They are getting ready to head to the boats now to take to the sea.
I think Reese is walking over to Claremont. He's like, Captain Montclair, did you hear? Did you hear of the raid star?
The raid
star that hath crossed the sky? Some say an omen of doom, others of change.
We're all pretty excited about it out here, me and the guys.
I think everyone's coming over. This is the crew reuniting in this moment. And I think a kind of serious look crosses Claremont's face, and he nods, and I too witnessed the Red Messenger in the sky. He looks at Ixtobor and then at the rest of you. Let's speak in the morning. When we all have clear minds on it, let us sleep on it and discuss what is best for the crew of the Verdigale and our path forward. I met with a collaborator today. We did some heavy research. I have findings I want to share with you tomorrow.
Why did he say it like
His
that?
eyes are like very bloodshot and across as he's saying this. I was able to get some time in to do heavy research with my friend.
This was not a light load to lift. Mental load. But no, he did. I think there's
The man knows when he needs to go to bed. I guess I gotta respect that.
He does look tired. He looks like he has been doing heavy research, right? He's got bags under his eyes. I think you can see his shoulders are slumped a little bit. There's not the... He's had a brightness and an enthusiasm, I think, most of the time that you've been around him so far. And I think that's missing a little bit tonight. I think he says, let us all sleep on this. In the morning, bright as lanterns, we will meet, discuss our findings and our plans forward for the Verdigale. I hope you are all safe and all well. Nothing too disastrous during the rootquake. And he kind of visually, for the first time, takes in the shape of all three of you, like this, to make sure no one's missing a limb here.
I think Calathiel's like, we're not okay. We have to get going.
Not yet, Calathiel. There's things you should know that I've discovered today, but it's too late in the night. There's no good talk comes after midnight. Let us meet again in the first day's light.
Captain, with all due respect,
Hexam.
I think a good night's rest would be great for everyone. I feel...
Agreed.
There's too much talking going on here. If we could get some ears, I volunteer my services. But people are talking, and if there are things to be learned, I would love to be able to add that to our conversation tomorrow morning, Captain. But if I go to sleep now, it won't be happening. I promise you, brightest lanterns tomorrow, but there are people here who know things that I truly believe we could learn from. And if it's going to help with the rootquake early detection, that would be great. There are so many things. So if you would not mind, Captain, I'm going to listen a little bit more. Perhaps the gal has another song.
I think he kind of waves a hand off. I cannot command you to slumber.
As much as I wish I could.
Yeah.
No bedtimes for the boys
God damn
tonight.
it, I wish you could go to sleep.
Papa, is it all right if we stay up a bit later?
Yeah,
And-
do you think it is kind of a... I'm excited. To be a counterpoint to Caltheel's wanting to leave, I think this is exciting to Hex, and there's an energy around the room that he wants to see what he can gather from it.
I think at this point probably Montclair does excuse himself for the evening. He heads up to his room. Remember, you three have a room together.
Of
Promise
course.
to not wake you up when I come back in.
Where we sleep in one big bed like the Three Stooges.
Yeah. Oh, I was thinking Charlie and the Chocolate, his grandparents, but yeah, I guess that too.
More of a Three Stooges kind of thing.
I think, like I said, this is kind of like the chatter doesn't break up per se, but some people do start drifting to bed now, and others start gearing themselves up. They start kind of, talking at the counter, sending messages to have their boats readied at the dock. There are people who are going to leave tonight, who are doing what Calthiel wants to do, either because they're afraid or, as you can judge by many of them, because they want to get out there and get the first strike at whatever spoils they can find.
Yeah, I guess, we don't need to go into all the deep conversations that these, various different groups are having, merchants, sailors, people who are, are at the junction for various different reasons, but is there, some kind of, a study role or something where I can,
Just kind of hear what people
just to be
thinking.
Yeah, these salvagers over here, are certain that with what they could tell from where it landed, we need to go north. We have to get out of here north to find stuff. Or, hear the gal
Yeah,
talk
why
more
don't you give
about
me a roll
something.
here to see, what you can glean from, you're staying up and kind of, picking up the dregs of conversation that happened as the night goes on. Yeah, this sounds like a roll to me. So let's go through it. So you start with an edge. What's the edge here?
It could be tides, like an edge of exploration, learning, and lore. He's not trying to persuade anyone. It is purely trying to listen and take in, especially after we heard this gal tell the story of the Red Messenger and it coming and being a harbinger, that he's trying to build a bigger picture of what other people are taking from that and are saying as, they kind of recollect themselves after the experience.
Yeah, this is definitely tides then. I think tides sounds great. What skill are you using here?
Study.
So that is 2d6 to start. Is there something that gives you an advantage here?
I don't know, maybe Old Accord Tempest, as people talk about how the sea reacts, that if he needed to get in a conversation, talk about storms or the things that happen out on the Wildsea, that he, and that may be a stretch, but, just that, yeah, I was just going, I was trying to
That
figure
might
it
come
out,
up.
but, you know what, that might kind of just be it, just those two, again, because it's just trying to listen. It's not really
This
trying
is not
to
like
do
a high
something
risk roll, you know what I mean? Yeah.
It's just gather what he can from it. So
Yeah, I think this is 2d6 straightforward.
Okay.
Go ahead and roll 2d6. And let's see what you can pick up.
coming very slow. Oh, 9 and a 3. Or a 6 and a 3, not a 9. Jesus Christ. It was an upside down dice, guys.
Tim's got a loaded
No,
dice.
those are tricky. Those are tricky. You have to look out for those.
I got a 6 and a 3.
So a 6 and a 3, right? And so you're just trying to get a sense of what people are talking about in general, and kind of if there's any specifics you can pull. So you asked me what direction. I think you're able to ascertain talking to some more people, some who were higher on the ridge when it fell. And this is just factual, easy information to get. This star fell to the northeast. And I don't know if that anyone was able to see exactly where it fell. No one has a pinpoint on a map, right? But it fell to the northeast of Caldermere. And I think the general consensus also is that it couldn't have gone that far past Caldermere, right? The arc that it was traveling at as it started to kind of fall from the sky was a trajectory that would have put it, within sailing distance of the city, right? That's, That's like the first thing you get picked on. And then kind of like generally, right? I think you get some talk of sailors just talking about like, Caldermere's always been the place to go if you're a salvager, right? Things get shook up all the time. And that is like, the danger of being here, but it's also it's the risk and the reward. Because these rootquakes happen all the time, things get pushed up. And it really just seems for whatever reason that Caldermere's on a rich vein. There's always more getting pushed up, and it's always like, not always valuable, but there's a lot that is valuable here. It's also why Caldermere, has a little bit of a higher level of technology than some places. Like I said, it has electric lights in the city. It has this torsion arbor, this kind of massive engine built into the base of the city's cauldron that powers this thing. And so, I think... Go ahead.
Did we come up with that? I'm like, that's great. I love the torsion engine. It's been a while since we jammed on this. That's very cool. I can't quit thinking about it.
Right, and so, there's excitement around the possibility of this good salvage, and you get to the northeast, and you also get a lot of talk about, I think this phenomena is, maybe you have already heard this in the past, or maybe this is new knowledge, but these kind of like, falling stars that cast a crimson light or a ruby light. These are known colloquially as red messengers because they are seen often as, an ominous portent, right? A sign of something to come. And there's not like a one-to-one here, right? It's like, they arrive and then this specific kind of thing happens, right? And that's why there is this kind of ambiguity in the room.
When you say often, is a red messenger like this something that someone would see depending on where they've been in the Wildsea? Like, I've seen 4 and it's always been bad for me. Or it's like, I've seen 1, but my dad said his grandfather saw 3 in his day, which was a lot, I think
Ixtalbor leans over to you at one point. Ixtalbor's the other, has stayed up as well.
He's finally
right?
talking to me.
And he is, right? And I think, there's a kind of camaraderie in the late hours of the night, right? Mm-hmm. As the room is started to empty out further. And Ixtalbor, I think you can tell, he's not swaying, he's not sloppy, but I think you can tell he's been drinking tonight. Yeah. When he opens his mouth, right, these brown vegetable teeth, the smell of this kind of like fruity liquor rolls out on his breath.
Do Ectus drink alcohol?
Yeah, this one does.
Okay. I'm just saying, maybe they had I don't know that, their system works the same way, but yeah.
It seems to work good enough for sure. Ixtalbor leans closer to you, right? He's not smiling, right? It's like a kind of a grim look through this kind of horrible vegetable mouth that he has. And I think he tells you, I saw a red messenger once. Never thought I'd live to see another in my day. My crew was on their way to Mawbreak, an old spit, built in the rusty hull of some ancient steel ship. The kind of place where they didn't ask questions about what you were bringing to trade. And I think he tells you, he and his crew, he does not name the ship he was on, they saw a red messenger falling in the air on their way to this spit, Mawbreak. And when we arrived, it was empty. No one there. No sign of a living soul, but nothing taken. We didn't stay.
What does the red messenger have to do with that?
Are you staying up late too? Okay. I think he looks at you. He doesn't have eyeballs. He doesn't have eyes. But there's like a crinkling of the brow and an upturn of like a kind of turn in the mouth. As if to say, like, oh, what do you fucking think? And then I think at that point he gets up, right? And I think trundles to bed. Which is to say, who knows, right? But he saw one, and then he found what should have been a town that was empty. And I think, he gets up, he starts to move, and then he turns and looks back at you, Calthiel, and he says, I think you're right. I think we should leave soon.
Yeah, I think... Calic immediately looks to Hex like, right? I said that.
Yeah, I think, for Hex kind of being usually a pretty light guy. There's definitely a heaviness that like I don't know if we've seen on him yet. That it's just like there's research to be gathered and there are things to learn, but there's also something that goes beyond, any kind of research you can do, which is just like the gut feeling of this man or this cactus is like, he's being very genuine in this moment that maybe we should fucking hightail out of here.
Research all you like, Doc. I'm not going to be here when this town disappears.
That probably brings the night to a close, right? The last stragglers have either set off for sail or they are going to bed, right? There's a few hours left before sunrise. Time to get some sleep. And, the sun does rise on Caldermere. The next day arrives. And the Junction's a big place. It's got a ton of rooms. It's full of wild sailors because Caldermere is a big settlement. And, as soon as sun is up, there is a commotion again, right? People... wild sailors are gearing up to get out on the wild sea. There is kind of, not a mass exodus, but there are a lot of people who want to get out of here, either, again, because of fear or because they are excited about the opportunity.
I think probably the quakes and the earthquake have probably dredged up a lot of salvage.
Everybody can't wait to get out there.
Mm-hmm.
I think they have, and I think, in the morning, right, like, you have windows that look out onto the Wildsea. I think as the morning sun starts to kind of crest up over the horizon, you see like glimmering, like sparkles and reflection along the waves headed out, right? Places where the rootquakes have brought things up already to the surface. There are people trawling the surface for like the small bits that get pushed to the top first and sink fast. Grab them while you can. And I think, early in the morning, once everyone has kind of woken up, right, back down to this common area, I think Claremont has slept, he has shaved, he has cleaned himself up. I think he's wearing this kind of like nice, like navy blue, it's almost reminiscent of like an admiral's suit in some ways, right? This kind of like naval uniform. And he is wearing... like proudly, prominently displayed on the lapel now, this brass lantern symbol, right? This badge that he has, that he gave each of you one as well, right? Like signifiers of your induction into the Lantern Society. And I think Ixtalbor comes up and they confer for a moment, and then Ixtalbor heads out, right? And I think Claremont kind of probably brings you guys over to, like a small side table, right? There's there's a continental breakfast here, that kind of thing, right? There's like food out, like little things you can grab, small pastries, fruits, bowls of like nuts and, kind of simple food. And, I think the first thing he does once he's gathered all three of you is, how are we feeling in the morning's light?
A little dehydrated.
We gotta get out of here. What?
Okay. Drink some water.
I've choked down another like pollen-filled glass of barrel water straight from the bung.
Captain, I have to stress, I just don't think we should stay here. Something's not right.
You're right, Calathiel. And I think he draws himself up. I've been collaborating with another lantern here in Caldermere. A man named Errol Point. He's what would you call him? An arboreal seismologist. He is a studier of the rootquakes. We've been writing back and forth for some time. I was excited to meet him. I've been looking at his data for months as I planned this journey, our initial leg. It was one of the things that made me decide on Caldermere as our first port of call. But Errol and I are on the verge of a fascinating discovery related to these rootquakes. There is more going on here than meets the eye.
Well,
Go ahead, Calathiel.
Sorry.
I was talking, but go ahead.
Where's your friend now?
I'm going to meet with him. There's a building here, a Kartoika, a map house, but it is also an outpost of the Athenaeum, a lending library for the people of Caldermere. The chandelier repository, you might have seen it glittering on your way in. Errol and I still have some research to conduct. Some final problems to solve before we're ready to present. And I think he looks at the three of you. I mentioned this to you already, Hexam, but there is a coffee house, a kind of salon, the Scholar's Cup. It's in the Mosslight Quarter. It is a gathering place for members of our society, for other archonauts, intellectuals, thinkers, a place to share ideas. I had initially intended on giving a presentation there this evening about my broader theories, the shape of the Wildsea, as I've spoken to you before. Instead, I believe I will be presenting my research with Errol tonight. I would like the three of you to attend. It will illuminate the scope of what we're dealing with. And in the meantime, I have a request for the three of you. Ixtobor is already seeing to our provisions, making sure the ship is well stocked for the journey ahead. Right now, the Verdigale carries cargo that we do not need. That instrument is beautiful, but it is not of immediate use to us. The Tarnanas will rot if we do not get rid of them. I entrust the three of you to make those trades and to outfit the ship with what you think we most need on our next leg of the journey. Do you feel up to the task? And I think he looks at Calithiel here specifically, kind of gauging your seaworthiness here.
Me? Where are we going?
Back onto the Wildsea. But tomorrow. Today we prepare, tonight we discuss, and tomorrow we embark.
Sounds like an incredible plan, Captain.
I'm sure.
Thank you, Reese.
You're welcome, sir.
Aye.
Yes, I can take care of the rest of the Tarnanas. I have something I need to pick up that I believe will help, and especially if we are going to meet with this Arrow Point. I think it will help me finish up the last I need to, get that early detection system up and running. I can deal with that. I can deal with that this morning. And you know what? We'll meet up, and maybe you can give us that presentation on the way. I know that we've got a nice little ride on the torsion engine on the way to the cup. Maybe you can give it to me, Captain. I would love to hear what you had presented, but I'm with Ixtobor.
I'm not going to do it twice. That'd be a real... And narratively, it would just be kind of tricky. I'd be doing it again.
Oh, right.
It's bad radio, actually, so...
All right, one more time.
But...
I think... Yeah.
I think that, like you said, Captain, and what I've gathered from Ixtobor and his experiences, he has said that we need to be ready to leave tomorrow, as soon as possible, so...
Ixtobor is a capable quartermaster, a fantastic cook, and a strong hand on the deck. But he is superstitious. He is an old sailor. We are explorers. We are researchers. We are the crew of the Verdigale.
Hi.
And I think he... Thank you, Reese. I think he pauses here, and he... I think that's something you can kind of see a moment of, realization and kind of almost concern cross his face. And I think he says, something to think about today, gentlemen, before we meet tonight. And perhaps we should have discussed this sooner. But I think, as lanterns, as those who seek to illuminate the mysteries of this world, as we venture onto the Wildsea, we should each carry a question in our heart. What is your question? What is the thing that you seek to know from this world and from our voyages? I'll tell you mine now. To know the true shape of the Wildsea, that's what I'm after. But it's different for each of us and for each member of our society. Think on it. Think on what it means for you to set sail tomorrow, to embark on this voyage. And in the meantime, prepare. I want to leave as soon as first light tomorrow. I'll see you tonight at the Cup. And I think, he houses the last mini muffin, gets up, and strides out into the streets of Caldermere. And Go ahead. I don't know if there's the crew's left hanging for a moment here. You've been given your marching orders for the day.
All right. Seems like we should get started now. Hex, you said you'd take care of the Tarnana trade.
From what I remember, we didn't have a ton left. I think that I can gather up what is still tradable, give away the rest, toss it, whatever needs to be done. But I believe I know someone, who will take them.
Very well.
I
know just the guy.
I'll grab those, and if anyone wants to, I will be exploring the gate bridge just a little bit this afternoon.
I think that Cal and I should set about bringing that musical contraption. I don't even know what it's called. Begin trading it with Madame Zira. Perhaps she'd be interested. What do you say, Cal? Will you join me in this?
No, I'm tasked with a greater calling. Captain's tasked me with taking care of the ship for our next voyage. I need to prepare.
Oh, very well then.
Isn't that what he said?
He said to trade the cargo. So.
Yes, to trade the cargoes. Perhaps you might help me with this. It's quite a large object.
I'm a little guy. We're gonna need a crane. I'm a bug.
Imagine what we have, like a cart of some, or hand cart.
I'm sure we have a cart. We got it on here. I'll help you.
I want to take a half step back here and talk a little bit about like what the next little portion of the session looks like, and then we can kind of continue. I think that basically, we're going to be going back to this kind of zoomed out, this montage kind of portion of the game here, and there's kind of two things that I want to kind of hit. One is this cargo, this trade that you have, right? So let's talk a little bit about that. Kind of one of the primary economies of the Wildsea as a game, as opposed to a setting, right? Is that as we play the game, you guys will accrue resources and you'll accrue cargo. And these are things that you can then trade, right? Or barter away at settlements for other resources, or especially to upgrade the ship itself. And when we built the ship, which was, we did this before the first session. We did this preemptively. You built the ship by choosing kind of a bunch of options from this big, huge section of like all these different aspects of the ship that you can customize, right? Like fundamental things like the ship's bite. You guys chose the saw prow, or its engine. You chose this like electrical ceramic battery. And then there's also smaller things, additions, extra rooms in the building, things like steam whistles or rig ropes, or, cargo cranes, and also like the ship's weapons, its undercrew, right? Ixtobor was one of these options you chose. And each of these options cost what the game calls a stake. And a stake is just kind of a representation of like a certain amount of resources, right? You have the Tarnanas, which are a piece of cargo, and you have this mechanical automated player piano, which is also a piece of cargo, but it is, I believe we gave it the tag ornate mechanical. It is worth more than a regular piece of cargo. You can trade it for more stakes. And so the game suggests that generally one piece of cargo is worth one stake. And I think that is the case for the Tarnanas. The Tarnanas are tradable for like one stake's worth of ship upgrades, or for a nebulous amount of something else if there's like a different kind of trade you guys want to make. I think that the mechanical player piano, the pre-verdant player piano, is worth 3 stakes, right? Which is can get you some heftier upgrades for the ship. And so what I think I want to do with this is kind of do it a little differently than we might have in other games, or in, and even in previous sessions perhaps, which is instead of playing out like trading the thing away and then playing out like trading for a different thing, I kind of want to, and tell me if this makes sense, work out beforehand what are the things you want, and what are the, what stakes worth of things do you want? And then once we know what you're getting, and we already know what you're trading, kind of montage through and figure out what this kind of series of exchanges looks like, right? Kind of, collectively kind of backfill the story in a little bit of like,
Sure.
does that make sense?
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
I know we've talked about it wanting some kind of, maybe even a crane for our own ship, like to be able to pull things from the sea, or, a bit easier.
That's true.
Which would be a funny way to get it, is we have to use a crane to get this piano into the,
And so before we get too far into the specifics, I do just want to like hit one more thing, right? I want to do this, and then I think on top of this trading that you guys are going to do, right? This kind of like montage of like running across the city to sell your Tarnanus to someone so that you can then trade the thing he gives you to somebody else for this thing. The other part of this before you meet back up with Claremont is that I think each of you is going to have time for one task during the montage on top of the trading that you are doing. And the tasks, that's kind of what we did last session here, right? That was things like acquisition, trading, smaller things. Could also be working on a project, for instance. Or it could be trying to recover if you have some damage on your sheet. I think everyone has time for one task here. Also worth thinking about also, this could be spending milestones to acquire a new skill rank or to modify an aspect to kind of advance the character in some way. So that is like kind of like the 1-2 punch I want to get here is the trading. Everyone has time for one task, and then I think we will meet back up with Claremont and kind of hear his the final findings of his research and his intentions going forward for the Verdigale. The first order of the day is trading. And so I think, we probably get a shot here. Claremont has left. Ixtalbor has also left the junction. He is going out to make sure the ship has the necessary rations and other kind of basic supplies as quartermaster that you'll need for your upcoming journey. And so we get the three of you coming out of the junction, right? And I think Caldermere is this morning already abuzz with activity, especially around the junction, right? There are wild sailors streaming out of the junction as you also exit. People are gearing up, right? Because as we know, when rootquakes shake the Wildsea, when they change its topography, they bring things up from below. And that is the kind of the vast richness of Caldermere comes from that, right? The rootquakes around it are constantly dredging up new technology, old relics, things from the pre-verdant world, ruins to be delved and salvaged from. And so, there is this big exodus, right? We just had a huge rootquake last night. And although the ominous portent of the Red Messenger, I think, hangs over a lot of people's thoughts, just as many people are excited to be like, what if we're the ones who find like the next great thing that has come up? And so, yeah, these wild sailors are kind of already, you see people leaving and heading towards the Vale port. The air is filled, with the sounds of chatter and discussion, but also the growing roar of chainsaws as the saw prows of leaving ships start to dig into the waves, the wild surface, and take them out and away from the city. And, also, like I said, the rootquakes yesterday or last night, they did cause destruction here. It's not like widespread and it's not, disastrous, but there are, signs that have been knocked over, infrastructure, stalls and carts on the gate bridge that have collapsed on themselves. All around you, people are cleaning up, loose debris and scree that has come off the hillsides onto the roads. The city is kind of coming together to clean itself up and repair itself in the wake of this rootquake. And I would say the atmosphere is overall bright, right? It is a bright, sunny morning. The kind of memory of the rootquake the night before has softened a little bit in the light. And just as many people who are not leaving are still excited to see what might be coming back to the city sooner than later. And so I think that is where we kind of start with you guys. You've been giving your marching orders to get the ship equipped and prepared. And so we can kind of, I don't know if we want to like zoom out and talk from the player perspective first about what you guys want to do, if we want to just dive right into trading. And but I think it'd be kind of fun to like kind of set our intentions and then work backwards a little bit to kind of figure out how you get to those places. Mm-hmm. Because we've all done a little bit of looking at the book, right? Thinking about like what upgrades we want to make to it. And for me, this is like one of my, I really love doing this in a game, is like give me a big list of upgrades and then let me start like theory crafting about what I want to build. As a high schooler, I never played Shadowrun, but I remember I had like every Shadowrun like source book because I just loved like, I'm looking at all these cool guns, all this sick cyberware, and I'm imagining the character that I would build.
In the game I would play. I would have so much fun.
Yeah, exactly. I didn't play TTRPGs until I was TTRPGs rather until I was in college. So there's a lot of time in high school where I was like fascinated by the form, but never actually played it.
I wanted to play so bad when I was in high school. The flavor of nerds I hung out with though were like weebs, and they played I don't know what the system was. It was like an anime style TTRPG that they played on a forum and was dungeon mastered by our English teacher, Mr. Bjorn. So
Nice.
I did not want to engage with that. But I had like all the Dungeons and Dragons books.
He shouldn't have engaged in
so
that.
bad, and then couldn't until I met you, Mitch.
Yeah.
We have refused to play Dungeons and Dragons 3rd edition or 5th edition to this day, I think.
Okay.
4th edition still up for grabs. We'll see.
Open air.
Advanced D&D? Is that good? Is that any good?
I'll hold comment.
We really can't get into this. On the air.
Of the Wizards of the Coast.
Yeah.
The wizards have many ears.
Many spies with many eyes.
Okay, so I'm with you there. We should kind of like stake out our goals and then work backwards. Does anyone have anything like clear idea of what they're trying to accomplish?
Yes, I know that with the last of the Tarnanas, through the montage that we'll get to, eventually getting our saw blades back up and sharpened, ready to get up out in the sea, especially after a little bit of the rough sailing we did getting into Caldermere, some of the narrow crashes avoided and whatnot. So I want to definitely get those back running so that when we're out in the sea, we're not running into issues with those.
Yeah, you guys did take 1 damage to your saw's track, which is like the thing that measures your ship's bite and how good you are at cutting through the surface of the Wildsea. And so generally, like repairing your ship in this game, the book tells us is about 1 piece of cargo to repair a track on one of these ship tracks. It's a lot bigger job to repair damage to a ship than it is to an individual. So that's 1 stake. You have, like I said, 1 stake worth of cargo from the Tarnanas and 3 stakes worth of cargo from your player piano, which we noted has the ornate and mechanical tags, which makes it more valuable than other pieces of cargo.
Yes.
Are we gonna sort of name our intentions now?
Yeah, I think I'd like to like name the intentions first, and then kind of.
I'm gonna probably turn to Hex a little bit for this too, but one of the things we kept talking about was a short band radio, especially between us and the Outrider.
Yes.
I'm guessing there's like probably some sort of like junk heap shop or something.
I think that there is. Yeah, I think like and probably you can actually see it from where you come out because your junction is kind of like right by the Veil Port, the break in the cauldron, right, that leads into the fertile garden of the Crescent, the basket rather. But I think that's kind of like this is probably closer to the lower levels of the ridge line, right, as the caldera kind of starts to sink into the waves, I think there is this big stretch that is kind of like loosely fenced in, penned in, that is probably just referred to colloquially as the yards. And I think it is this kind of sprawling, what, from a distance looks like one large junk heap, but it's actually subdivided, almost like a flea market, right? There are all these different stalls and like kind of smaller like cabins and structures in there where different people have set up their shops and kind of staked their mark on their little piece of this junkyard. And it is where salvage is often brought in from the Wildsea floor and then kind of dragged up the side and into these yards and distributed. And so I think that is like an easy line of sight for where, you can see already like a bunch of, people are probably like re-erecting some of these brightly colored banners that advertise different, vendors and stalls here, different workers, right? You see like a red flag fluttering that says Merrick's Engineering. There are a few other ones of these. And I think the yards is where a lot of there's probably also kind of an exodus, right, of wild sailors heading this way already, right? People in the morning who are also grabbing like the last tools or bits of salvage.
Other doorbusters are here for doorbuster discounts and savings. Gotta get up there quick.
Maybe you're seeing this even in the streets, right? There's like kind of a rapid exchange, like in the kind of lobby of the junction as you're leaving, right? There are wild sailors who are, trading, like it's a rolled up chart for, maybe one of these like pipes that has like the little acid broiler so you can smoke it out on the Wildsea without the fear of open flame, right? There's just like a constant like passing of small objects and trades that everyone is getting ready.
Self-heating bong.
So we need to find Calix the junk merchant from season 1. I'm sure he's here somewhere.
Yeah, for sure.
It's my man. It's like, go to a different universe to get away from you, and here you are.
If I'd been thinking about it more, I would have figured out who Calix in this world is and just keep featuring him every time.
Yeah.
But so you think this the game has, like I said, it has these additions for us, right? Fixed band radio is one of them. It's 2 stakes. The game describes it as a short range radio system capable of sending and receiving static laden singles based on recently rediscovered pre-verdant technology. Allows instantaneous communication, but relies on fragile antenna fixed to the uppermost portion of the ship, which is great. You already got like a tall lightning rod on there. So
also, I like that Pete, you brought up that your Hex is going to have to help like build it and not just like get in a radio.
Yeah, I think you get like parts.
Yeah,
I'm imagining.
It's like the kits that they used to have back in the day, where they'd send you like a piece of the radio every month, and like you slowly put it together.
I'm like imagining like Jawas, like on Tatooine. It's like, oh, here's a bunch of bullshit. Like some of it works, some of it doesn't. But it's just like we come up there. It's probably like I was imagining actually like you see that sometimes in chemical baths where they put it all on a big flat thing and it goes into a basin of. If it like you probably just see stuff going in super rusty and coming out a little less rusty.
Yeah.
The smell of these oils and chemical baths as we kind of come up there.
There's places in this yard where they like it's just that, right? It's like here's the junk I found. Good luck with it. And then there are probably other vendors in there who are actually there are places where people are building things or like repairing things, and it's probably a little bit more of a trade to get those things that are like even semi-functional.
And maybe like there's someone I'm imagining this is kind of like a row, of like hawkers and junk shops and thrift and whatever. As we're making our way through there, maybe there's like a table towards the back with 1 second. With are the anchor? I'm forgetting the name of the guy. 1 second.
Did we also want to?
What's the like golem type of thing?
Ironbound.
Ironbound, and maybe there's like some simple looking ironbound thing of I'm imagining like the equivalent of like a protocol droid, sort of not quite a fully functional thing, but like the half broken guy is sort of there as like concierge to someone in the front of actually working on parts and things. Where it looks like maybe it's a little more automaton minded, or we can maybe find something working.
Yeah, I think there's, we haven't talked about Ironbound a ton, but I think that there are some in Caldermere, and I think there are other, like, the Ironbound specifically are a bloodline, right, that the game has, which describes, like, seafaring automatons or ship-made spirits that have gone rogue, right? They are kind of like these like steampunk constructs. Some of them have like punch card like engines, things that are like these like little thinking machines. And I imagine there are simpler ones as well, right? Like the kind of like gears and steam version of a Roomba, right? Like a little machine that's just like sweeping up like a little pathway going back and forth. Like 2 robotic arms, a broom on like a little trundling wheel set.
Collecting metal.
The vacuum guy from Teletubbies.
Dust to turn back into other things. Do we also want to get a crane? And is that a 1 stake item? Because I know we have the 3 stakes from the player piano. And if 2 are going to be for the radio, is the crane 1?
Let me look at it again, but I believe a crane is 1.
Okay.
Yes. Which, like, a crane could maybe make sense as a thing, you guys are thinking about, right? This piano was pretty difficult and dangerous to pull out using an anchor and a lot of good luck. If you are intending to get more, like, carry cargo, unload cargo, move heavy objects without, like, tipping the ship over or all risking your lives, like climbing down into and tying things to anchors. That's probably like a pretty...
Yeah, it sounds good. Sounds good to have. Yeah. A little less luck carrying us through might be beneficial.
Yeah, I think that those all kind of make sense. Okay. So we're talking about repairing the saws, getting a crane, and the fixed band radio as like the way to spend these stakes. Everyone's still on board with that?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I think that's a good plan.
We need to find out what does the radio man want, and we need to get it for him.
So I think this is probably, like I said, like I'd like to zoom out a little bit here, right? And kind of do like a like an actual montage here, less of like a meeting each person and like talking to them, just because I want to like get us back onto the Wildsea and on our journey again. And so maybe we get kind of like, the flashing montage here, right? Of like, first it's the crew making their way down to the yard, right? This kind of initial moment of like, we're seeing them walking through these like, these like dusty alleyways where there are junk merchants on all sides, right? There are these canvas piles or canvas cloths spread out with junk piled on top and loosely separated. And like I said, you're passing by, you're seeing different places. You talked about an ironbound, Pete. In my head, one of these is Sifter's Sundry, right? And Sifter is this big, like, brass and clockwork automaton. Maybe, like, not, like, instead of legs, right? Some kind of, like, rolling central, like, mobility apparatus, like, like a kind of a central column and multiple arms, and is, like, spinning around and, like, moving junk around, sifting, literally, like, finding the treasures in these piles of trash. There's, I think, like, another, like, a panoply here of different bloodlines, right? I think, I've, like, had the image in my head this whole time of, like, these, like, Pagura, these, like, hermit crab people, right? Who's, like, whose shops are also their, like, shells, right?
They are, that. We're, like, looking through some stuff on a table.
Someone asks you something, you go right back into the shell, come back out with something they have in there.
Yeah. Limbs like reaching behind them to pluck off, like something hanging from the side, right? Cast iron pots and pans, like little like tools and things. And so we get this, this little moment of the three of you moving through the yards, this kind of like junk and salvage area in Caldermere. And I think both of the things you are asking for are like not outside the realm of possibility, right? They are not like especially unique items altogether. I like the idea that the game mentions in the book that that radios are like kind of a recent reintroduction to the Wildsea, right? That this technology was kind of like semi-recently rediscovered, but maybe in a quantity enough, right? Like there was like a particular hall. And so maybe there is like a shop where like as you get closer, you can kind of hear the din of competing sounds of music, right? But like a tinny recorded quality, which is also probably interesting if you've maybe never heard recorded music played.
Yeah.
And also the sound of like overlapping chatter of voices, right? And I think, maybe this is, I think I said like I just wrote down a bunch of these the other day, but like Merrick the engineer, right? I think there's like another one of these like Pagura, these big like hermit crab people who I think is like, extending these arthropodic little like manipulator arms and like working on electrics on like a big table. Is like kind of got these different boxes and receivers and is trying to assemble all of the different pieces of scrap into sets that he can give, right? Into like pieces of functioning radio. And elsewhere probably there is like, closer to the water line, like these bigger infrastructural pieces, right? People have cranes, they have probably like recovered ship parts also, right? Like masts, sail sets, pieces like bites, right? Probably there are bites down here that are like in the processes of like being assembled or salvaged. I don't know if there's like full-on ship fitters, if anyone's building ships in Caldermere right now, but like that is probably like a section of this kind of like big, sail-focused like kind of salvage area.
Right. So Merrick is what is the
Pagura? This is
Pagura.
just like shortened like the scientific name for hermit crabs, I believe.
So he's the fellow we want to talk to for radios. He seems to have
Yeah, right. Like I think there's a kind of the chorus of dins in his shop, right? And like,
well, I guess if we're getting rid of the player piano, is he the person who wants that, or is he further down in stepwise of this trading off element that we want to see in the montage? I guess because
I think probably further off, right? I think there's probably like a cut through here, right? Of like, so like if this was like like I said, the filmic version of this would be to me like where we start flashing into like kind of like montage, right? Which is like it's the crew pointing at a radio that the Crabman is fixing, and then it's cutting to Reese and Calathiel somewhere in the city, outside of Madame Zera's in the Moss-like quarter, right? The player piano on like a big hand cart. I'm imagining like Madame Zera and two other Zellicrae in kind of shifting shrouds, right? These kinds of almost like formless people, like there's like a the Madame and her two spirits, right?
Yeah.
Inspecting it, right? And then dropping into someone's hand like a handful of carved ebony coins with kind of like the engraving of her mask, and the eyes are rubies with spider legs coming behind it, right? These are like tokens of the Madame's favor, right? Madame Zera and the Twilight Review trade in things that are like maybe not tangible, right?
Yeah.
But a favor from her in this city goes a long way. I'm imagining just this kind of like series of exchanging of hands, right?
Yeah.
A little bit of a game of like material telephone to get to the thing that you want.
Yeah. Maybe there's like some element of like trading these ebony coins that we got for like especially if we're trying to trade with Merrick, that he just wants a lot of things to sort through, so that there's kind of like in my like mind, I think of it as like a blind box acquisition. That like it's just a giant crate of stuff. Like you might go in like a what is that show where they bid on like storage wars?
Storage Wars.
Like
Downey's Dickering though.
Downey's Dickering is a great show.
This is a little bit of Downey's Dickering in my mind.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah, but that, like maybe we're trading those for some type of crate. We throw up our coins and we get a crate. No one knows what's in it, but we are promising him that maybe there will be something in there that you can sort through, and if any of it can go to the radio, that is great. Everything else goes to you. Because I think then we get to see another element of just the shipyard, of like people unloading these crates off of ships that are coming in. Maybe someone who went out early after they saw the Red Messenger come in. They're just bringing in something that washed up, and the mystery is part of the, I think the intrigue maybe for Merrick, that it could be fun to see what's in it.
I like that, right? Like a shot of you handing one of these coins to like a big burly Ectus at the shipyards, and then him stacking crates on a handcart, and then that's getting rolled back through to the yards, right? Just like these like kind of succession of images of trade and exchange happening. And also like we're seeing I think Reese and Calathiel and Hex moving through Caldermere, right? Like in the early hours of the morning, we're like passing through. It's like sitting on the trolley, the crescent way, as it's kind of taking you around to the other end because you've been told this is the guy who's going to trade you this thing.
Yeah.
Finding your way to the culinary district to trade off these tarnanas for something so that you can then bring that back to trade to the bite grinders or somebody.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I'm just trying to figure out more color. Like who do we trade the tarnanas to? Is it to the culinary district, or is it to feed some kind of animals, or
There's like an ice cream guy here, right? Or dump them to you're gonna trade that for ice cream to cool off all these hot workers, or
Shells and Shoulders confectionaries, that kind of spot.
I mean, I know that eventually I want to get into that. I am bringing libations down to the Cutters Club. So if dropping them off at some sort of culinary bakery, I'm open. What do you say? Shells and Shoulders?
Shells and Shoulders, yeah. I just wrote down a bunch of phrases. Yeah. Shells and Shoulders confectionaries is I think a bakery, perhaps.
Shells and Shoulders, brother.
Yeah, Shells and Shoulders.
It's also green,
Yeah. It's an Ardent and an Ectus who work there together. They started this bakery, right?
Lattes cost $12 because they got the ampersand in there.
Right? But that's kind of the vibe I'm thinking, right? It's just like I said, this kind of quick cut montage, right? Of you guys moving around the city in the morning, bringing these libations or these treats back to, the Cutter's Edge Club, right? The yacht racers, who then put you in touch with their bike grinder, who is the guy who repairs and sharpens, and somebody adds your ship to the list, and you give them the number for the dock station that it's at, right? Kind of links in a chain like this. I think we get this kind of rapid back and forth. I don't know if anyone has any other links they want to add there, any bits and bobs of back and forth, but I think this is kind of how the first part of the morning goes, kind of working together to outfit these different elements for the ship before you disperse to handle your own business in the city.
Hex is just going to be sticky for the rest of the day from schlepping this.
Pulling out tarnanas, handing them over, right? Good quality, I promise.
I think our saws are kind of going to be brought back up to snuff.
I think it'd be funny, we place something down in front of there's a trapdoor spider guy.
Oh.
A hand
snatches out.
Grabs it and then
That's
comes back out and puts something else out there. Yeah.
That's great image. Yeah. Terrifying to me. My literal worst nightmare. Giant trapdoor spider.
It's a trapdoor Zelicray.
Oh, yeah. I love that. Maybe that's how you get the payment from Madame Zelicray. She doesn't hand you the coins, right? It's around the side.
It's a stage. Yeah. That's how they do some stage changes. A trapdoor spider comes out and puts everything up on the stage and Carrie.
We go over put a note. She's like, okay, you gotta go. You gotta go see my
from behind a little red curtain.
Yeah,
flips out.
We place the note by the door and knock on it, and then he, snatches it up, and he comes back, and there's
We all get startled because he snaps out with a quick back in 5 sign. It's shit. Then we wait. Then he comes back, snaps it again. We swap bananas. We've got, what is he giving us back instead? Oh, this is the gold for the piano.
The coin, an ebony coin with ruby eyes.
A bit of coin.
Yeah, favors from Madame Zelicray, the owner and operator of the Twilight Review, which is also, I think, in my mind, the Twilight Review is this this cabaret, this entertainment spot, but it's also, I think, probably if you're trading in stuff that you can't trade out in the yards or on the gate bridge, right? If you've got probably whispers, right? There are probably whispers that get traded here as well, right? Yeah. Maybe that's one of the things you get instead, right? Is a small vial with a phrase printed on the side, and when you hold it close to your ear, you can hear the whisper inside rattling around.
Okay. I think maybe as we're shuffling our way through from the yard to the rest of our trading montage, we get a lot of background characters. I think we kind of saw in the first 2 days in Caldermere, the Ambrose, the town poet, probably sort of cutting a yarn about this whole red messenger thing, and has probably worked it into an ode already, or it's sort of, I imagine somewhere between town crier and gossip rag. To
add on to that, I think he actually has an announcement, right? Right, this town poet, I think, produces like a scroll at some point, right? Or if it's not him, it is like a town crier. But I think there is like a, and you probably hear this a few different times as you're crossing across the city this morning, is, an announcement from the Council of Tradition and Reverence, right? And it's, something about bolstering spirits despite the frightening events of the night before, and the announcement of a spring harvest, or a spring harvest. We are in the spring. A spring harvest festival at the end of the month, right? This. There's a sense that someone's trying to take
Change
people's
the
minds off
subject.
the worry.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, right. Get excited. It's one of the largest spring harvests we've ever had from Garen's Basket, and we'll be celebrating it at the end of the month.
The
on
G
the 10th
stands
day
for
of the
value.
week.
Yeah, I think. Okay, so does that change anything for anybody? Who's up next? So we've got our radio. Would we say we sufficiently found that?
Yeah. Again, we don't. This doesn't have to. We can just jump to the end if we want to.
Yeah.
It's just just a chance to try and play out some color in the world, right? But I think.
Yeah, I think
If those are the things that we're acquiring in the end, I'm happy to say that we're able to kind of make these trades over the course of the day to end up with someone. Probably there's a crew, right, bringing this crane to mount on the Verdigale, and similarly Hexam probably, right, it's going to be your job tonight or in the morning to wire up this radio to the control
I think
panel,
it's going
right?
to be kind of like a crank style. So you give it a good wind up and it powers it up, and then you can go for a while.
Listener, the gesture he's making is crude.
I am not doing anything.
Some sort of solenoid, I guess. The way you're using that.
And maybe we get the shot as you guys are bringing the radio back, right? The pieces of the radio. There's a couple of guys, who are hanging from the front of the ship, right? They have grinders and files, and they are working on the bite. They are cleaning off the slime, and they are resharpening the blades.
Looking good, boys.
Before we leave, I think the market area, or as we're passing through as the commerce district, I guess, kind of comes alive here. I think Calthill's still very off kilter, and we talked about it on the way in. Has a additional sensory organ in the form of these lateral lines. They're sort of what allows to sort of sense movement, but has been very off kilter since this happened. And I want to try to find someone here who can help kind of put all that at ease. And one of the pieces of our background for the Karchabora isopods is having sort of etched segments of the shell in chitin, sort of signifying, I don't know, somewhere between trophy case and varsity jacket or something. And I think Calthy probably has one sort of etched one that I'm guessing probably did himself. I'm imagining as being kind of like a stick and poke. It kind of sucks. And I think it's a bad drawing, a doodle more or less, of somewhere maybe somewhere he can reach, on a thigh or something of home, or what he kind of remembers about getting stranded. But I think senses this opportunity here, and it's just something about the Red Messenger and the looming danger of a rootquake just sets this feeling that, I don't know, that this is more auspicious than everyone here in town seems to be taking it as. So I want to try to find someone who can carve a design into a shell, kind of someone like a tattooer and a, I don't know, wood carver.
So we kind of move into individual tasks now as the crew starts splitting off, solidly, having acquired their various assets.
Maybe Cal's taking off to do that. Me and Hex are going back to the ship to try and get this radio thing installed and situated and tested.
Yeah.
Getting it set up on the Outrider as well.
Can you hear me?
Getting it, yeah, exactly.
You're a nerd.
Yeah, I'm down for that. So do you have a place in mind already, Pete? Is there do you have a picture of where Calathiel is going for this? And also there's the other part of this to me is as like a task, right? Or as like a goal? Is there a what's your aim here, right? Are you improving an aspect? Is this like is this healing in some way? Is this like therapeutic, or is this like acquiring something? I guess is kind of like the
Yeah. I think that so I have 2 tracks filled on the lateral line aspect. So I guess in a way, the text on that, the details read, it's a series of liquid-filled canals beneath your skin that allow you to sense even the most minute vibrations. Darkness has no Darkness has no effect on your ability to perceive your surroundings. You can mark to hone in on a specific vibration and learn both its location and what it's likely to be. And we talked about this last, was like a rootquake just sets that up to 11. So it's like there's just vibration everywhere. So it's like it's so noisy that I think it needs to be kind of like reset. So I imagine this is a way to sort of both memorialize the moment, but probably take that down a bit. And I've got a couple milestones to burn, so that's what I'm imagining. However, this is sort of a cultural practice, right? Like for Carchabora isopods. So finding something like in between, I think in the literature, when we arrived in Caldermere, one of the notable establishments here was Brittle, Braskin, and Lye, masterful mastheads. The shipwright, carver extraordinaires.
Indeed, and you can hear more about these in our game of I'm sorry, did you say Street Magic by Caro Assertion, where we built Caldermere out by playing a couple rounds of that game, which is the first episode in our bonus feed over on the Patreon.
And I came up with this particular business.
And I came up with this one. Me. And so I'd love to dig into my great idea a little closer.
That's like a fun idea, finding like a place that does carving to try and like get this done.
And yeah, I think like as I'm imagining this kind of like midway of a mercantile section of the city, like there's probably some gas lamps and something equivalent to neon like at night, but I think this is during the day, and so it's just like full of voices and people shuffling and moving, and I think there's like a lot of big colorful wooden painted signs, and I think maybe towards the end of that, like where you'd find stuff made of wood, is this big, I don't know, Malcolm, I mean it's our idea together. But I imagine there's like a big sign that says, like masterful mastheads made something or something along these.
Magnificently.
Oh yeah, magnificent mastheads made masterfully.
I like that. Yeah, that's really good.
Brittle, Braskin, and Lye, and it's like Carver's Ltd. It's a big sign with a lot of text, so you can't miss it. And yeah, I think I'm gonna pop my head in there.
So this sounds to me like you're doing recovery, probably, right? You're trying to, because the way that aspects work, when they are fully marked, they are no longer usable. This is how we kind of track damage in the Wildsea. And so your lateral, is it called lateral lines? Yeah, lateral line trait is currently at 2 out of 3 segments marked. So if it gets marked again, it will be useless after that. So doing a recovery action here would be a way to kind of heal the damage to this track and make sure that you still have access to it, which would probably be very useful if you're about to get back out on the Wildsea. Being able to find a specific thing and learn its location is, like, I think, pretty valuable when you're delving into the relics of the past unearthed by these rootquakes.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I think probably... I'm looking at our notes here for Brittle, Braskin, and Lye. And it says, Braskin is an Ectus, Brittle and Ardent, and Lye a Mothrin, 3 skilled and serious sculptors. And the shop is a veritable museum of masthead, ship-proud decorations awaiting would-be captains. And so maybe, it is one of these 3 who you see maybe doing some, like, scrimshaw, right? I think it's probably Braskin, the Ectus, who is doing this. And I imagine, like, thick vegetable fingers, but the tips... he's wearing, like, rings, right, that have small scraping and carving tools, and so he's able to do these, like, really fine manipulations, even though he's got these kind of, like, what would be considered, like, thick or clumsy, like, vegetable fingers.
Right. I like that. I remember when we came up with this idea, or the image in my head is, like, peeking into this because I think we said brittle braskin and lye has been here for like kind of a long time. It's sort of a known thing on the Wildsea. If you've got a really showy masthead, it's probably brittle braskin and lye. And I think when you kind of open the door in this dark kind of wooden room, there's like a front counter, and behind it is sort of just like almost like choir rows of mastheads carved, right? And like these three, or whichever one of them's there, is like, you know, probably so focused in carving they're barely moving. And so right when we come in, it's like it just blends in, and suddenly somebody, you know, moves. You're like, oh shoot, like that's not a carving. That's must be, you know, braskin. Maybe whatever lurches to how can I help you? And I think Cal would kind of lay it out, right? Like, you know, can you scrimshaw?
You know, like a gesture.
What does it look like I'm doing? Yeah.
yeah, a wall of them. Oh yeah, good kill for.
Yeah.
Well, I've got something a little different, shall we say? Can you scrim?
I'm not going to take over the voice from you, man. I'm not going to take this from you.
Yeah, you can. Yeah, you're welcome to.
Okay, all right.
I have to be a lot of people.
Turn around. Let me see. Do you have any carvings already?
Well, like I said, I have like one, I think, and I imagine
just like in real life, Pete. Pete also has one skin carving in real life.
I'm not going to be shamed for this on my own damn podcast. But yeah, that's true. And I think he kind of shows like one, which is in range to have been able to do himself. It kind of like looks like a stick and poke, or like, you know, that we were talking about the other week, but that drawing of like a Icelandic schoolboy or something in like the 1100s. It's like, he did it on like tree bark. It's like in the record, and it's like Olek or something, and it's like him and his horse, and like him with the sword. And I think it looks like that is like kind of a pretty bad version of a etching that he's kind of a little bit of ashamed, and
he's gonna blast
I think
over
before. No,
yeah,
I'm not
I was
getting
like,
blast
that's
over.
a mighty fine scratcher you got there.
Something like this, you know, and I think kind of explains, but shows somewhere probably like on the segmented, you know, carapace on his back, one of these lines, open scale, and it's like, you know, with the rootquake and the red messenger, it's important to me.
So what's the image you're getting inscribed here? You know, I think that's like the fun.
Well, when we say scrimshaw, I guess for the listener at home, you know, scrimshawing is like a particular kind of like American handicraft, which is like etching or engraving, particularly on like whalebone or ivory, especially in like coastal New England and sort of in the age of sail in the 19th century. So you'd see a lot of like almost like lithograph carving, like scratches, you know, with needlepoint almost onto bone. And I'm imagining like that. It's sort of detailed, but not, you know, super complicated of, you know, like I think the red messenger sort of arcing over the sky, over Caldermere. And maybe that's kind of just representative of like a you know, the outline of Caldermere with this red messenger, this shooting star.
Kind of the top. Broken cauldron shape, you know, so I like that. So the way that this works, normally when you're making a recovery task, if you are recovering for yourself, you would have to roll, you know, the appropriate skill and spend an appropriate specimen. And this could be, you know, the tend skill is like a healing skill, but cook and concoct could also do things. However, you are in a settlement and you are getting someone else to do this for you. And so normally you roll for recovery, and there's a chance you can actually fuck up and hurt yourself more than healing. But since you are in a settlement, I think that you can just trade a resource here for the service, right? Just like straight up bartering, resource for service. And instead of rolling, I think I will give you just like a triumph, as if you had rolled, which will be removing two marks from an aspect, rating, or mire. And so the question for me here is, what does Calithiel trade for this?
Well, I have this bottle of pre-V wine that we pulled from, I think that was from the place where we found the piano, like underneath the bar. Yeah. So I feel like that's a good trade, right?
Yeah, I think that that definitely justifies also, I think, like a full triumph, like a healing 2 marks instead of 1.
Cool.
And you know that's probably tucked away under the counter almost instantly, right?
Yeah.
And this is not a usual thing that they do, but I guess they probably set up a station, right? Like they kind of, you know, like bring you into the, like, yeah, like there's a carving area in this studio.
They have
where
a massage table. Yeah.
Yeah. What are you
Like,
guys
your
doing
little head
here?
poking through the hole.
What is this for?
I think that like you probably are like handing over that like bottle of wine and saying like, oh, this is a fine vintage. It would pair
Pre-V.
nicely with pre-V. And I think Braskin probably just like uncorks it and then downs it.
Yeah. What? What did you say?
And then like, yeah, downs it.
Tastes like,
gives a large
grapes.
belch, throws the bottle over his shoulder, and just gets back to doing his scrimshaw.
And which one is he again?
Zactus.
Braskin's the big ectus, right?
Yeah.
The one with these are kind of like
Oh, sure.
rings that give him an added dexterity.
Like unclear mouths. It's just like in a hole in the head. And just see the
Yeah.
bottle going like glunk, glunk.
It's like a flower, maybe. I like the idea there's like a flower
Yeah.
on there. You're just
Oh,
pouring
sure.
it into.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. That's fun.
So before we move to the next person's task, there's like another thing that happens here, I think, which is when you're in the chair, as it were, right? When you're getting your scrimshaw done, I think you are, you know, this is probably not painful, I imagine, right? This is like probably like in the surface of like the plate. I don't imagine that there's like a lot of sensation there. I don't know. You tell me.
I was imagining this as sort of like being like the equivalent of like brown noise or something on this lateral line, where it's almost like audio therapy to sort of like reset this thing is just to drown it out to like an even din for an hour.
Yeah. So you're kind of getting lost in like this kind of scrimshaw ASMR session.
It's actually different than that.
And you can go ahead and clear off the two marks on your track. But I think you're kind of like near the end of the session, and then you hear a voice, kind of a gruff voice, shout from across the shop. Right? There've been people I think people have stopped and looked at what's happening with like kind of mild curiosity a few times throughout this, but it's not been like a focus. And I can hear a voice, and you hear someone, Dramothax? Dramothax, is that you? And you hear like a clunk, clunk, clunk as a man starts striding through the shop towards where you are at. And this is an ardent man. I think he's in his 40s, maybe 50s. It's hard to tell. He's got like a shaved head or a bald head, and I think like heavily scarred on his face. He's wearing like kind of like a long jacket, but no shirt underneath, and I think he's like heavily scarred on his torso as well. And I think he has, you know, this thunk is coming from the. I think he's actually got a like scrimshawed kind of like ivory-looking peg leg, right?
Oh.
That was produced here.
He's coming in the store.
He's coming towards you. He's moving at haste.
Oh. So I'm
and
done.
he's-
I'm like out.
No, I think you're in this. You're still like
Okay.
he's finishing touches on the scrimshaw, and this wild sailor, and unmistakably a wild sailor, right?
Mm-hmm.
There's like a kind of grayish spore scarf, you know, tied loosely around the neck. You see the big knife on his belt, and like, you know, the kind of like claw of the rope and grappling hook on his also on the other side of his belt, like kind of as the jacket kind of flutters open with his movement.
Cool.
You can see he's equipped with the tools of the trade, right? A blade, a grapple, and a spore scarf. Like the three things every wild sailor has on them.
Hell yeah.
Again, he says it as he gets like, you know, he's a few feet away from you, and he stops, and he stoops down, he squints one eye, and I think you can see now that like the other eye is a glass eye here, right?
Yeah,
There's a big
flipping it
scar.
up, flipping the patch up anyway.
Dramothax?
And I think Cal's like face down on the table, right? It's like antenna, I think, pointing that direction. Be like, are you talking to me?
And I think as soon as he hears your voice, he like slaps his thigh and he laughs and he shakes his head and he's like, "Oh God, I'm sorry, lad. You look just like someone I knew before. You're an uncommon sight here out on the Wildsea. I thought it was an old friend at first."
No, it's no problem at all. Karshabora name. You knew someone like me here?
And so again, this is like worth saying, right? Like, Cala feels unusual, right?
Yeah.
we don't see these isopodia on the Wildsea normally, is kind of the general vibe, right? You are kind of a unique specimen when you arrive in a place.
How long ago? A friend of yours?
He laughs and he says, Karchabora, I have forgotten the name. It's been such a long time. And I think, he drags a chair over and, probably Braskin kind of like, I guess he doesn't have eyebrows, but, kind of a slightly annoyed expression at, like, trying to finish up this work while you are talking to this stranger. And I think he says, yeah, right, I knew an isopod once, Dramathax. We served on a crew together. The Forward Opportunist. It was when I was just a lad, a deckhand. I'm trying to do math in my head. This is over 20 summers ago. I was young. That's my first ship. A Leviathan hunting rig. I thought he might have been him. I don't know if he's still alive even, but and he gestures to your plates. He was a bit more decorated than you are.
What would he say?
My boy was tatted up.
I doubt it. I would have known about it. I don't think our stories don't tell of anyone leaving Armadillo. You must be mistaken. Maybe an Ironborn, something like that.
Oh no, you look just like you. Just small but fierce. One of the best trappers on the crew. Leviathan hunters, masters at it. And I think he reaches down and he taps like the scrimshaw leg and he's like, hunted with them for 2 summers before I lost this. They left me. We were east back then. It took me a while to recover before I was back on the road. I captain myself now, but I credit them for teaching me.
Dramathax. I think. What's your name, friend?
And he reaches out to grip one of your. You have like a lot of arms, right?
6 of them.
Yeah. He shakes one of your hands. This is Cortho Waitwen,
Cortho.
Captain of the Volunteer. We're
Captain Waitwen.
Captain Waitwen. But you can call me Cortho. A friend of Dramathax's is a friend of mine, though. Sounds like you didn't know him. He's a good man. Terse, but kind.
I thought perhaps I was the only one. Your story gives me much to think about.
Well,
20
great.
years.
Give or take. I'll admit I haven't always kept the closest track of them.
I suppose I'm a wild sailor myself, though I admit this is one of my first voyages.
I think he gestures out, like, we're in the Veleport. I think that's where we have Briskin, Brattle, and Lie located. So I think he gestures out to the Veleport right there. There are ships being raised and lowered from the sea, right? There are ships moving in and out of that kind of crescent roundhouse at the center of the Veleport. And I think, well, what's your ship then, lad? What do you do?
I'm stationed on the Verdigale now, sir, under Captain Claremont Montclair.
And he gives you a smile, which I think relays that he has no idea who that is or what that ship is. But
I think Calhill beams a bit when he says it, like, we're on an important mission by order of the Guild of Illumineers.
He's a little bit high-minded for me. It's scrap and salvage these days. I didn't have the heart for Leviathan hunting.
Leviathan hunting? I've heard him talk about that.
You sail these seas long enough, I'm sure you'll see one if you're lucky enough. Steer clear if you're not ready for the hunt. Otherwise, you might end up like me. And he, I think taps his leg on the floor here to emphasize.
That's the difference between your kind and mine, Captain. I've got legs to spare.
And I think he, hearty chuckle at this, and he,
and I think we both laugh. I'm rollicking my, many segmented limbs around.
And I think, he doesn't linger long here, probably, right? There is salvage to be found. I think he's picking up a replacement leg, a spare. But I think he's going to wish you luck on your journey and continue on his way here. Unless Calathiel has like a...
Alright, bro, I'm about to head out.
I hope we'll see each other again. This Dramathrax, you mentioned... What was the last time you saw him? Was it here? Do you know where he went?
Oh, like I said, over 20 summers ago, a long time. I was still a boy. Handsome even at one point, and I think he kind of, gives you the profile shot, and like huge scar down the side of his face, like where like the glass eye is now, others crisscrossing his head. Just a man who has lived a hard, Crezerin burns all around his neck and like shoulders. Somebody who's lived the Wildsea life pretty rough and hard. But he was smart and tough. I don't know how long your kind stick around, but I imagine he'd still be out there if it's not the natural end, as it were.
Well, if you see him, tell him I'm looking for him.
He laughs too, I think, and probably that's the moment he takes his leave. You do the same.
I think Calithiel has like a little bit of a starry-eyed moment or something. It's like we've only really seen... This is the first like real dyed-in-the-wool wild sailor I think he's like met and seen up close with like the scars to show for it. I think he's like, wow,
It's a different genre from Claremont for sure. So yeah, I think, the camera pulls away from Calithiel, right, as like Cortho exits the shop, right, and we see Braskin kind of going in to put the finishing touches on this like commemorative plate, right, that I think is very nice, right? You've traded like a high quality resource for this, and Brittle, Braskin, and Lai are kind of famous on the Wildsea for a reason. They are talented. And so I think you've got actually like a very lovely representation of the Red Messenger falling over the shape of Caldermere, right? And maybe there's even like, some like light detailing to make it like clear it was a night scene, right? You've also got the hanging moon, right? And like the kind of like suggestion of its glow. And so as we cut away from this image, right, I think we cut to Reese. Like you said, we're kind of, everyone's getting a task here, and then we can also talk about if how people are spending their milestones. But so, what does Reese need to get done during the day that is like kind of separate from the rest of the crew?
Well, in an earlier episode, Reese did have a situation in which his spore scarf was ripped, and if not taken care of soon, could lead to disaster down the road. So I think he's going to have his spore scarf mended, and maybe get a fresh tar application.
Yeah, I think that's. I think Milo's mendery in the yard, right, is like
wonderful.
It's like it stands out from all the rest of this like metallic and wooden junk because it's like, you know what I think it looks like? It's real ugly. Is have you ever seen like yarn bombing in a city? Where someone covers up like a light post or whatever.
Yeah.
It's like an entire little shack that's been yarn bombed, right? In just like Crezerin stained fabric that has gotten dirtier and dirtier over time. But you do see, that people are coming and going with spore scarfs there. And so I think this is like this is also a recovery role, right? This is recovering an aspect. And again, because you're not fixing it yourself, you are trading to have it fixed in town. I think you just gotta tell me what resource are you trading here, and this will be fixed that way.
I do have a bit of salvage.
Yeah, what do you got?
That I could trade. I've got a length of chain I'd like to trade.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, that's fine.
There you go.
Everyone here will have has a use for a thing or knows someone else they can, right? Like make a use for. And you're like, maybe this is like almost instantly, right? Like, I think Milo here is an ardent, and I think they take the chain, right, and use it to like reaffix a piece of the signage that fell down in the
nice
in the rootquake yesterday, right? Like
yeah.
It's just like locked in, fixed. And I don't want to like zoom in on this interaction. I think it is like you're just waiting, right? You're seeing them restitching and then dipping the spore scarf in like a sealing concoction, something that'll let you breathe, that will block out the spores when it's pulled over your mouth. But we've talked about this. Word bearers have like, if not a uniform, you have like the sigil, right? And there's a kind of a look that you have that gives off, the station that you possess.
Aura. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's an aura. And so I think while you are kind of like waiting at this counter, I think a young, an Ectis woman or an Ectis girl. This is a child, not like a baby. This is like a youth, like an 11 or 12-year-old, I think, right? She's one of these cactus people, right? And I think she approaches kind of nervously, and she's holding a package, right? Like a wrapped parcel in her hands that is like, maybe like a foot or so long, foot and a half long, And then about half that wide, this like kind of square parcel that's been wrapped in bound paper and then twine. And I think as she approaches, there's a moment of like, nervousness. And she's, excuse me.
What? Yeah. Who's speaking?
I
look down. Oh, there you are.
Sir, you're
Who's speaking? Who is that?
Not, like,
Oh, Reese is like, what, 80, 75 years old?
Yeah. He's got Benjamin Button. But I think she says, excuse me, sir. You're a word bearer, yes? And I think,
Why, yes, I am.
Her head tilts in a way that indicates that, like, she's using whatever strange thermal vision Ectus have to, like, study you and reassure herself that she has not just approached the wrong kind of stranger. And she kind of lifts this package up and towards you a little bit, and I think she's wearing, just like a simple kind of floral print dress, but she has like a leather apron on over that, and it is, like grease stained. I think it has like small burns on it. It is a working apron. And she says,
cool box. Well, gotta go.
I've got a delivery for you. You take deliveries,
a delivery,
don't you?
Yes, I do. Where is this going?
And you make sure that they get to the people who need them, right? That's the deal.
Young woman, I am oath bound to deliver this package.
And I think
holds up his hand. Maybe he like takes his station sigil, his badge, and holds it up for her to see.
And I think she studies for a second, and then kind of extends her hands with the package towards you. And she says, "My name is Hexlin. My brother."
Wait, hold on 1 second. Let me get my notebook out. I need to, keep track of this in my ledger. Yes, your name
meter's
again?
running. Go ahead.
Yeah.
Hexlin. My brother Folgan. He operates a small salvage vessel. It's the Bright Bloom. And she looks around a little bit, and she looks back at you. He left this morning to get a first stab at the salvage that's been pushed up by the rootquakes from last night. But I wasn't done, and she pushes the package towards you right now. The bite has a cracked rotor. I didn't get to replace it yet. If he doesn't get it, it's probably gonna break down while he's out there. Are you can go? You can leave the city. You can go out there, right? You can deliver it.
Yes. Do you know what direction he went in?
I think she looks up and then she kind of points towards the east. They followed the messenger. They figured that was where the best salvage is.
Why, I'm headed in that very direction.
And I think she hands you pushes the package again towards you, and she says, "It's the Bright Bloom. It's a small salvage vessel. It's got a twin bite, and it's yellow. It's bright yellow."
YELLO. Okay, yes. And anything else?
Are you leaving soon? He'll need it soon.
We're leaving on the next tide.
Okay. Right. She can't. What is she gonna do? Say no? Go get out of here.
Sounds good.
Yeah. And I think she points over in the yards, right? And there is I think a smaller little stall that has a yellow banner that says Bright Bloom Salvage on it.
Mm-hmm.
And she says, that's where we work out of. If you come back after you find him, I'll have something for you. Some kind of quest reward, maybe.
Well, I'll think about it.
But you will deliver it, though. That's kind of your whole.
Yes, I will deliver it.
Okay.
But it is, I do this because it is a necessity, and like I said, I am duty bound. I expect nothing in return. But if you would give something to me, I would accept it freely.
And I think she looks at you like nervous.
Accept it freely.
Yeah, I am.
Yeah. But I think she, hands this package over to you, and then makes her way back to the Bright Bloom salvage stall where she and her brother sell the salvage that he acquires out on the Wildsea.
What was your name again?
Hexlin.
Hexlin, this will be delivered.
pets, like the at this point I think like the quest like name would pop up, right? Yeah, like ding, quest accepted.
Bum, bum, bum.
And so yeah, you spent the salvage. You can repair the damage to your spore scar aspect as it is repaired and returned to you, right? Like as this is done, right? Milo pushes the spore scarf across the counter. It's been repaired. You are free to get on with your day.
Fresh coating as well.
Yeah, freshly dipped and coated. Good to see you through.
For some reason, I'm thinking about like those like e-bike shops in Brooklyn that have like pictures of Goku on the batteries. He's got he's got like
even faster.
He's got like a Vegeta spore scarf behind the counter.
Yeah, I got to figure out what the Goku and Vegeta of the Wildsea are.
Listeners, hit the Discord. Hit the Discord and tell us what the Vegeta.
If you have any big feelings
is.
about who's the Vegeta in this scenario, I forgot what I was going to say. Oh, they paint it red. That's what makes it faster.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Anyway, moving on.
That's Warhammer. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's Gundam. Thank you.
That's real life.
Idiots.
And so then I think we can turn our camera to Hexam's task, right?
Yeah. So, I think this task is it's going to be working on, finishing the track of the early detection system for rootquakes. And I think that we kind of see this in a montage as well.
Perfect.
Of, like, it's him going to the gate bridge, and he's going to... I think that there's kind of like a pet store for, like, insects, and it's him... I don't know what I have to
this is your beetle.
Trade for these things, and I'm not even sure what the word is. Pete, you're an aquariums guy, maybe you know. It's like a terrarium for insects?
Vivarium,
terrarium. And I think...
paludarium if it's wet.
Oh, okay. So I don't have anything listed to trade, but...
This could just be scratch, right?
Okay.
If you're just working on the task, this doesn't have to be like... Because
Cool.
I'm looking at it right now, right?
Yeah.
You have this project, which is the early rootquake detection system. It's 3 out of 4 segments. I think just spending your task on working on this is enough to progress that. And so if you need to acquire things for it, I think instead of spending a resource, this is like trading scratch,
cool.
right?
Perfect.
It's like the little things that you have on you.
Sweet. So yeah, I think he's just going to, hard shells, which is this little insect pet store, and getting cages for any of the insects that he's been studying that he learns become more active before the rootquakes happen, that he learned while he was out with the members of the Cutters Club out on the water. And it's just be able to house any of these beetles so that when they start to act up, he can monitor them and he will see their activity in these little vivariums, if that's what they're called. And he's also there, and while he's there, he also this is where he acquires his specimen, the phosphorescent beetle, which I think will help him at night out on the deck, provide a little bit of light if he needs to do any kind of work out there. It's like a little beetle headlamp that he can, maybe it flies around and he can use it as light out on the sea. Well, it's night out, so he has a little bit more light than would be there provided. So I think it's just him picking up these the vivarium and gathering the last bits of supplies, and talking to the insect guy about some of his theories about how insects react before rootquakes and what he's learning. And the guy's like, oh yeah, I've heard about this, and you might want one of these. This is going to allow them to pick up the Krezerin in the air as rootquake stirs them up. So I think it's just working on and gathering the last pieces of what he thinks is going to be the way to study these insects and the way they react to rootquakes.
Yeah. And so I think we can talk about, like, maybe when we get back to the ship later, exactly what the machine looks like once it's like plugged into the...
Yeah, I've got a few ideas on how that...
But so I'm going to mark that temporary track, this early rootquake detection system project, as completed. And I think that like the completing this project is basically going to add another upgrade to the ship, and we can talk about exactly. I think that this is probably something like a new fitting for the ship that does something to the effect of maybe when you are rolling a ship rating to navigate with the immediate after effects of a rootquake. You can treat all of your conflicts as triumphs.
Okay, cool.
Right?
Yeah.
It'll be like an upgrade to rolls made to deal with the consequences of a rootquake. It is basically like an aspect upgrade to your ship that is like going to improve, because you can detect when they're about to happen.
Yeah.
Your ability to respond to them is going to be improved going forward, as long as you still have that functioning on the ship.
Batten down hatches and such.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Switch to the right gear on the bite, whatever you need to do to ensure. So you'll always be at an advantage.
Nice. Okay.
And I think, you're on the gate bridge, and you're leaving the gate bridge, and I think you're on the Crescent Way, right? You are on this kind of trolley rail system that runs along the ridge of the caldera, bringing you back towards the Vale port, so you can go back to the ship docks, drop off your findings, and then, probably we're midday now at this point, right? As the different things have been progressing, where it's not evening yet, it's not quite time to go to the Scholar's Cup, but we're getting close. But it's still day.
I'm getting hungry.
And it's important that it's still day, because I think as you're on the Crescent Way, and you look out to the west, right? Just kind of idly looking out the window, and it's, the vast expanse of the Wildsea off in the distance, and you can see also, the smoke trails of engines as ships are leaving, right? You can see in the distance tall shanks swaying in the wind, and it's mostly clear skies right around Caldermere right now. Some small light clouds, but nothing too intense. However, far to the west on the horizon, Hexam, you see there are dark clouds. There is a storm building far to the west of Caldermere.
Oh boy. Okay.
And this is we haven't addressed this a ton yet, right? But we know Hexam is and has been since his last pupation pursued by the living storm that you kind of stole your arcanautic power from, right? Yeah. You are the Tempest because you have lightning powers, because in your last pupation you did something to kind of draw power out of a living storm and into yourself.
I can see I can see the lightning, but I can't hear it yet, which is almost kind of scarier. It's
far away. Right.
I know what that crack sounds like, and it like rootquakes might like really get to the core of like Calathil. Like seeing those lightning, knowing that the thunder comes with that later is not my favorite thing. Yeah. Okay.
I do like Hex just out there going, boy. Like, oh shit, there it is.
Yeah.
And I think that is it, right? There's not like you don't hear it. I think like you said, you can see far off in the distance, like perhaps the lightning strike, right? You can see the massive clouds. It's a big storm, but it is right now probably days away from Caldermere at a first glance.
It's in the west, and we're sailing east, right?
Yeah, that's the plan.
Yeah, great. That sounds smart.
No reason.
Yeah, no reason, boys. Follow the comment.
Great. Okay. Great. Yeah.
Okay. It's coming.
So I guess my last thing here is: does anyone have like milestones that they want to spend here? That like.
Yeah.
Is this like a...
I think. Do we need to explain how the milestones, like, does harvesting the last of the lost Tarnana farm, like, do we have to explain how that is used? Or if I wanted to add a pip to, study, do I just say that I spend 3 of them to do that? By the way, I was acquiring pieces and studying insects and talking to the different people on the gate bridge. Is that how I do that?
So, when you spend your milestones to advance your character, there's a bunch of different things that you can do with it, including, like you said, to gain a new skill rank is one of the things you can do. You don't need to roll while taking these tasks, but it does say that you need to describe what your character does to improve themselves with a narratively appropriate milestone. And so I don't think you have to give me like a fully detailed explanation, but I think we should get a sense of like how does each of the milestones that you use contribute to the thing that you're using it for.
Okay.
You know, and so it sounds like you want to gain a skill rank.
Yeah.
Is that what you're?
Yeah. You know what? Okay. So I think with the training with the Cutters Club, or the narrow edge at the Cutters Club, like that was a part of learning about how they start to notice things when a rootquake is about to happen. I'm picking up stuff from that. Trading the player piano for parts to get radio. That's a part of studying and learning how to build things. You know, and the Tarnanas were there, that you trading thing again. It's a part of trading for other elements here in Caldermere to build things to improve the ship, learning how to keep it running and to improve it here in port. The first time we've really seen that. So I think that all of that comes into his study of being a wild sailor and keeping the Verdigale up and running and improving it little by little here in port. So
you want to add a skill rank to study?
Study,
then?
yeah.
Yeah, I think that makes sense. So you can go ahead and erase those 3 milestones and add a skill rank in study, which will now bring your study to 2. And I think all study makes sense for I think all of those in terms of like what the game tells us study is a skill of meticulous recording and focused investigation, using it to learn the important of details others would miss, making connections and sorting information. I think that's all things that you are doing in this moment. Yeah. Does anyone else have like milestones they want to spend here before we kind of move towards the denouement, the meeting at the Scholars Cup?
Not I.
Yeah.
Maybe I'll take one embrace, because we've gone through like more than one rootquake. There's first a disturbance on the way here, and then now the Red Messenger and another one.
And I think
so it's just maybe more able to anticipate.
And if
so what so that would take 3 milestones to add a skill rank. So what are the 3 milestones you think that
saved Claremont from near death. Showed Reese how to delve by anchor bite, and safely recovered a preview player piano.
Yeah, I think all 3 of those could lead to brace, a skill of defense, hard-headedness, and immobility. Use it to weather the ravages of weather, exhaustion, and those that want to see you fall. This is keeping your footing through a storm or rootquake, shouldering your way through a crowd, clinging to life in the toughest situations. I think all of those experiences could, and so to bring it all to a close, I think we get the crew reuniting, right? Maybe this is at the ship, maybe this is at the junction. Maybe the ship, right? It's like checking in on like the final the new crane is installed on the deck, right? Opposite where the snapograph arrangements kind of like a articulated arm is, it is a clearly like a refurbished piece of machinery from another ship from God knows how long ago that has been kind of rebuilt and replaced, piece by piece 100 times over. But it is sturdy and sufficient looking. It has been freshly oiled. Everything that is like breakable has been replaced. There is new cable, spooled around the spool, I guess. I don't know. And this is, I think, going to be sufficient going forward for all of your needs in terms of like pulling cargo up and out of the Wildsea. The radio has been installed in the pilot's cabin, and I think we've also, we get a shot of like a smaller, sort of piece of the unit getting added to Reese's Outrider as well. You'll be able to speak to Reese now when he's out on the Outrider. And then we follow kind of a winding, meandering shot of our last night in Caldermere as the 3 of you leave the Vale port, and make your way up, up one of the funiculars, up one ridge, and then down another, as you descend back towards the Mosslight Quarter, the kind of nightlife area on the interior slope of the cauldron. This is where you went to Madame Zira's before. This is where you were last night when the Red Messenger flew across the sky and lit up all of Caldermere in a brilliant crimson. And it is where you are headed tonight, right? Following the path of these like bioluminescent mosses and these firefly lamps as they guide you, I think, into a crevice that kind of runs down the side of the inner slope kind of, again, winding into the stone until eventually, there is kind of an aperture, a big opening, cavernous opening into one of these crevice walls, and a small hand-painted sign, which just says, I think like simple letters on a wooden sign, the Scholar's Cup, and a kind of like very simple illustration of like a tea saucer, right? With maybe a little steam rising from it. And I think you can hear voices kind of echoing from inside as you approach. You are not in a particularly busy part of the Moss-like Quarter, right? Compared to somewhere like Madame Zira's, where everyone was kind of trying to be there as a place to be. I think this is in one of the kind of quieter, winding passages of this crevice. The sun is just starting to set, right? The moon has not yet risen over the ridge. And I think as you come in, you are greeted with, like I said, it's kind of a cavernous room. But I think that what's different from this place from like Madame Zira's, which was deeply internal inside of the Cauldron Ridge, this is like as you come in, you can see that the wall that faces the interior of Caldermere, of the Cauldron, has been broken away. So there is kind of a balcony that extends out looking over the basket there. And so there's this kind of big open air element of it. And I think, there is a counter and a bar at the back end. And this is, like I said, a coffee house. This is not a place for intoxicating libations. This is coffee. And I think the smell hits your noses, before you even walk in through the entranceway. You will drink a lot of things on the Wildsea that will be called coffee in your time as a wild sailor. And most of
chicory on the Wildsea.
Yeah, most of them will never be coffee. Most of them will be a stimulating substance, dark in nature, served hot. Coffee beans, however, grow in Garen's basket, and the Scholar's Cup makes real coffee. And so I think, the smell of roasting beans, of a freshly poured coffee kind of spills out of this place, and some of the first things you all smell as you come around. And yeah, like I said, there is this bar at the back where they are serving coffee, and I think there is a kind of a motley crowd in here. It is not packed, and it is, I think kind of these distributed little like conversation pits almost, right? These kind of assortments of tables with various kinds of furniture. Some of these are like recovered wooden chairs. Some are like, pieces of stone with cushion on them. I think there's kind of a variety of fittings such that almost any bloodline could arrive here and find their place to sit, their piece to sit on. And so, there are these different kind of like little isolated conversation areas, these like tables and various furnitures. There are, firefly lamps, I think, illuminating this place, hanging from the ceiling. And there is, near the back, a kind of raised, not like a full-on stage. I don't think like a band plays here, but there is kind of a raised stage, almost like a speaking area with a lectern there. And it is currently uninhabited. No one is using it. And I think you can see, as you walk in, there are, like I said, more than a dozen, maybe 24 people here, give or take. You start to see, it's pretty clear some of this is different crews, right? There are people here who are all kind of dressed in similar fashion, all conversing together. You get the impression that you might be looking at kind of mirrors of yourselves, other crews that have assembled. And I think you can see also, not everyone, but a handful of the people who are in here already are wearing the kind of stylized brass lantern badge that Montclair gave each of you before you arrived in Caldermere. Some of them wearing them pinned on their lapels, on their vests, on their shoulders, somewhere that is like a kind of clear signifier of their involvement in the Lantern Society. And so, I think you three have just walked in.
I burp as well.
Yeah. Someone's burping in the... No. I think the three of you walk in, right? And, as your eyes are adjusting to the kind of dimmer light of this coffee house, this intellectual salon, I think you can see Claremont is not here yet. You don't see your portly, well-dressed captain anywhere amongst the different groupings. It seems you have beaten him to the Scholar's Cup. But as you are kind of, maybe standing in the entranceway, kind of finding your footing, someone starts to stride towards you. And this is an ectus, a very tall, robust ectus, wearing like I think Edwardian fashion is like a thing I keep pointing to, right? These kinds of like Victorian fineries, also like these like suits and long coats. But I think his are, as he gets closer, they're all kind of these autumnal colors. This is kind of like orangey brownish suit. But I think you see the suit that he wears is made of leaves, right? That have been like pressed, leatherized, and then kind of sewn together to make a garment.
Hell yeah.
And so he's got like a waistcoat and a jacket, tie. He's got the lantern badge on his lapel. He's an ectus. He has a great beard of spines growing over his kind of the chin shape of his head. No mouth, just a great beard with kind of like the break in it to form a mustache, as if there would be a mouth there that is not. And I think he also has small round spectacles, like little like brass wire glasses, kind of the arms perched on another little outcropping of spines, with no eyes underneath. He's got the kind of the affectation of like an Ardent's look without any of the corresponding organs. And as he approaches, he's the crew of the Verdigale, I assume. And he strides forward to meet you.
Yes, sir. Who are you?
And I think he enthusiastically takes each of your hands and shakes it in turn.
Spikes.
The spines have been plucked from his hands. He is well used to interaction with less prickly bloodlines.
Yeah.
And he's Vorix Vot. You must be Calathiel. And I think he kneels. He has to kind of really lean down to shake your hand. Yes. Montclair has told me about all of you. He's been here already. We've corresponded before this, but he gave me a bit of a description. You stand out. I've never seen one quite like you before, sir.
Well, I think kind of ruffles sets collar back into place. Well, I'm flattered, of course.
Yeah.
And where is the goodly captain now?
Oh, he shakes your hand. He turns to you, Reese, and he reaches out and shakes your hand. One of the canes. Your family carries great weight in these parts, and of course, word bearers are vital to the cause. It is a pleasure to meet you as well. The lanterns, our missives would go nowhere were it not for word bearers to carry them. And Hexam. Hex? What would you prefer?
Whatever rolls off the tongue. Hex.
Hexam indeed. And
Hexam.
He claps you on the shoulder and he stands up. And I said, Vorix Vot, you are here in my establishment, a meeting house for great minds. I know you are newly inducted in our society, but it is a pleasure to have each and every one of you. Coffee, yes. Tea? Anything to drink, please? And he turns back to you, Reese. Montclair is coming soon, of course. He and Errol have something of an announcement tonight, is what they've told me, and I've been happy to make room in our evening's programming for it. There were a few other presentations, but they can hold for after. They were keen on starting as soon as they arrive, and I'm sure you'll want a bit of time to meet some of the others in our group. There are lanterns here, of course, other intellectuals, and he kind of gestures with one hand. Like I said, there are different crews here. There is like a collection of Gao who are kind of off in a corner, I think speaking in the Gaudim, right? They're the air around them kind of perfumed with the pheromones
Soft
of
smell
their
farts.
Yeah, their spore-based language. Yeah, something like that. I think he gestures. There's like a gentleman in the back corner who is currently perusing has a book, right? Is flipping through a book, and he says, in a quiet voice, "There's a monk of the Athenaeum here with us tonight. Quite fortuitous. It's rare to be host to their agents in person this way, but I'm sure he'll be quite excited to hear whatever news it is Claremont wants to share with all of us." And I think he continues to gesture on. There's another group over here. There's a bunch of mean-looking goths in one corner.
Goths?
There is a woman. Goths.
Oh, okay.
We wouldn't call them that probably in the Wildsea, but there is off in one corner there's a woman who is wearing. She's an ardent woman, tall and pale. She is wearing, I think, what we would recognize as kind of Victorian morning dress, right? Like this like black dress with like a veil over her face. And she is speaking to a Mothrin who is also dressed in black. I think he's wearing almost like a, like Oxford, like academic robes, like the kind of like the collegiate academic robes. I think he's wearing something like those that have been tailored to allow his wings to spread out in the back. And I forget what kind of moth you are, Hex.
I am a... Oh, I should know this right off. It's on my sheet, I'm sure. We're going to cut this out so I have a quick answer real quick.
I'll just interject. This pair seems like sort of, I'm face casting them. The band Lebanon Hanover. Look them up. That's who's playing them.
I don't fuck. What kind of moth am I? It's a...
You don't fuck.
Oh, this pair is actually perfect.
A brush.
Yes.
What, Lebanon Hanover?
Yeah, that's actually exactly who these two are. Except one of them is a death head's moth
Yeah.
instead of whatever kind of moth Hexam is, right? So there's like the yellow and then like the kind of like vaguely skull-shaped kind of decoration in the middle of those wings. And there's a third with them also. There is this tall, lanky, dark ironbound with them. This construct, this person who is made out of like dark wrought iron. Kind of
sagebrush sheep moth.
Sagebrush sheep moth, as opposed to the death's head over here.
Yes.
And yeah, so there's this tall, kind of thin, like an ironborn who I think has these kind of like wrought iron fences. Is what I'm kind of thinking about, right? These kind of like ornate little like fleur-de-lis on his shoulders, and on his chest there is a big rotating. The same kind of dark wrought iron, but it is, you called it earlier, right, Pete, like a kind of a cryptex machine, right? Like these like symbols and letters that are constantly rotating, the kind of thinking engine of this ironbound, this kind of machine person. And the three of them are kind of off in a corner, also chatting, and I think, they look over to you as Voryx Vought gestures in their direction, and Voryx says, we of course, are host as well to a few members of the Spiritist Assembly. Sure, they'll have some thoughts about whatever it is Claremont has to share with us all, but please come in to take a little time. If there's anything I can help you with, I'm sure Claremont will be here shortly. I think he gestures. There's like a bookshelf kind of off to the side, right? And this is like a kind of a little bit of a free Athenaeum here. A selection of reading materials for the customers here at the Scholars Cup. I think we have the most recent Lanterns Journal, Luminations, some interesting writing from Claremont in there. His declaration of intention on this very voyage. I don't know if you've had a chance to read it. I'm sure he has a copy on the ship. If there's anything else I can help you with, please.
There's also like a recipe for like a Tarnana syrup from Claremont or something.
There is, I think, the bookshelf has a couple different things on it, right? And I think one of them is, there's probably a few copies of this. There is, I think it might just be called The Almanac, and I think it has like the lantern symbol on the front. I think that the lanterns publish and occasionally revise and update a kind of almanac of like basic things you should know if you want to stay alive on the Wildsea. How to purify water with Creserin in it, right? How to, safely distill basic alchemical compounds. These kinds of like, which nuts are largely safe to eat, which ones need to have their husks discarded before they're safe to eat. It's kind of like a stab at conglomerating useful knowledge for the Wildsea. I think one of these is on that shelf. There's probably like pamphlets, smaller things. You might see Claremont's name on the spine of one of these titles here, right? There is a moment here, right, where I think you are, someone calls Voryx's name, and this kind of like cheery Ectus, pats you on the shoulders again and says, anything you need, just let me know. I'm always happy to meet new members of our society and to send you along your paths as illuminators of a brighter future, but let me just attend to them. I'm sure Claremont will be here all soon. We can hear his wonderful speech, and then it's a night of lively discussion for all of us. And And so then Vorix, I think, totters off, and the three of you are kind of here for a moment, waiting for your boss to show up.
He seems like a nice fellow.
Very accommodating.
What say you, Cal?
He's excitable, that's for sure. I think Calthiel has 2 cups of coffee. As we're like walking across.
Yeah, it's good coffee, right? It is real coffee. I don't know if any of you has ever had real coffee before, but
I've had real coffee before.
You probably have
absolutely
had real coffee.
not. I think Calthiel is not at all. So he's like, like sipping off of like 2 alternating hands. Have you guys tried this?
Yeah, I think, Hex has gone over and kind of grabbed the almanac, brought it to the table to just kind of peruse, and even if it's generally known knowledge, it's always good to flip through while we're waiting and pick up some, just other basic things that maybe he missed or is, you can always refresh yourself on the basics.
I think Cal's doing the same thing that I do when they're at this type of event, which is like I'm kind of working the edge of the room and having my fill of snacks and pastries. And I think looking at some stuff on the wall, and I think part of that is probably flipping through or, glancing at these spines on the bookshelf. It's like there are a couple C. Montclair names on the spine, but there's also other Montclairs. I think on older books, you can see there's a few others. And then like maybe even in the higher shelves, there's a lot of Montclair, right? Like, and they're all about sailing or ships or shipwrights.
Oh yeah, the older ones are definitely mercantile titles, right? They are books about proper conducting of trade channels, outfitting like merchant vessels. They are concerned with sailing, not with the natural world, right?
Mm-hmm.
I like to think that like all the Montclairs like died in horrible accidents too,
Right, it's like there's also a study, like biography, right, of the Claremont family or something called Tragedy at Sea. Something like that.
And the Claremont misfortune.
The Claremont family misfortune.
This is Reginald Claremont, my great-great-grandfather. He was eaten by, cannibal ardents out in the mountaintops.
And so, I think there's, several of these Montclair books. There are others, names we don't know. There is an entire shelf that is, I think, a collection of these, they're not bound hardcovers. I imagine they are more like vellum pamphlets, right? Kind of like a leather-bound outer and then, printed pages on the inside. And I think the first thing you can tell also is these are newly printed books. They are using Wildsea pulp paper, right? There's a certain, I think, quality and texture to paper made from iron roots that is immediately distinguishable from pre-verdant paper. And so there's a shelf of these journals called Luminations, which are, kind of probably seasonal releases or biannual releases that the Lantern Society produces. They are the kind of lifeblood of scholarly discourse on the Wildsea. And I think, a glance at these show, probably, Claremont, especially the more recent ones, has been a stalwart contributor. And also you can probably see, glancing on one of these also,
the editors.
Vorix Vought is a regular editor, right? He is rarely a contributing writer, but is listed as an editor in most of these. You are, in the coffee house of one of the key editors for Luminations. There's also probably, I think, some charts and maps here as well, right? Some kind of more practical stuff, but
so no, you said there's a is there any kind of bloodlines in the room that we don't recognize? Anything we have not seen before?
Not especially. I think it's mostly Ardent, Ectus. Like I said, there is this crew of Gao, right? Who are kind of, I think, mostly clustered together. Maybe there's a few other Gao who are not affiliated with them, but there is a clear a ship's crew of Gao. You can tell there's a captain who is kind of speaking. He's holding court with his crew, and they are speaking, and the air is almost hazy around them as they are kind of conversing back and forth. This Ironbound, right, that is with the what Vorix Vought referred to as members of the Spiritist Assembly, right? These kind of people in dark dress, in mourning dress, who are off in the corner. I don't know that you guys have interacted with a ton of Ironbound, and each one of them is kind of unique, right? Because they are not a bloodline of people born in the world. They are a bloodline of machines gained sentience, or machines inhabited by spirits on the Wildsea. And so each one of them is always kind of like a fresh revelation in that way.
I think like in this time before we're kind of starting, Calithiel probably is most interested in talking with the Spiritus Assembly, the Ironbound here, and I think is, probably funny as we're getting the sort of wide shot pan around the room of like what everybody's doing, because this, like 5'4" pillbug guy is talking to a bunch of different, I'm imagining like towering automaton things. I don't know. Like there's maybe 2 or 3 or something. I imagine it's not like everybody's just hanging out by group, but is fascinated by them. It's like, and how big can an Ironbound get? Are you some of the biggest? Do you get bigger than that? Do you get smaller?
I think as you approach, right, this tall kind of like wrought iron Ironbound like looks at you, and I think his head is, kind of like a tall cylinder that has like big glass lenses on it that dilate as he looks down at you, right? Like kind of creaking to bend over to look down at you. And I think like his voice comes from, there's not a mouth, but I think there is like a speaker box kind of in his abdomen, right? And it crackles, and then this kind of machinic voice trickles out and says, what are you, little corpse?
Corpse? No, I'm no corpse. I'm alive and well. I think it flexes 6 segmented arms, for something.
And I think, the machine kind of tilts its head, and the woman that is standing next to him, this woman in this kind of like Victorian morning dress, I think, like pale skin, dark hair, wearing this kind of, very light veil over her face, like looks at you with kind of a sneer on her face. And she says, "It's a dead world. We're all corpses, little one." And then she looks up at the Ironbound, one of Claremont's. Don't worry about him. And she goes back to talking to the moth while this kind of Ironbound continues kind of study you. You see these lenses like dilate and then like widen out. And there's like a click, right? And a kind of whine, and it's the same sound that the snapograph makes.
That's cool.
You have been logged. Wow, okay.
And I think it probably about that moment, you hear, before you see, the boisterous laugh of Claremont Montclair, and then the sound of another voice, kind of echoing down the outer halls. And then, at the doorway, you see him, his silhouette next to another. And this is, we've talked about Ketra a tiny bit, but I think the man next to him is Ketra, and it's one of the first Ketra we've seen up close, which is this bloodline of what might be the descendants of old humanity who stayed below the surface. The book describes them as being almost kind of semi-gelatinous in this way. Their skin is usually like these like dark teals, blues, purples. I think this gentleman standing there has this kind of almost translucent dark blue skin, mostly humanoid, except that the top of the head has kind of grown out into a mantle from which hang these kind of twisting, curling tendrils, similarly kind of translucent. And I think there are places where the skin is like a little bit more...
I think the chia seed was a guy.
It's like a squid man in a way, right? Their heads are almost like these kind of cephalopods thrown onto a human body. And I think you can also see, Ketra are known for, they replace their bones with more interesting materials, more functional materials. And as Claremont and this Ketra kind of step into the room, I think you can see the right arm of this Ketra. I think he was wearing kind of like, shirt sleeves, suspenders, trousers, but I think the sleeves have been rolled up to reveal like the floating in his kind of forearm on the right arm are instruments, measurements, right? There are like little like glass vials with other brighter liquids floating inside. There are gauges that are moving. This man has outfitted himself to be a tool of science. And as soon as they enter, Claremont sees you, and he raises a hand gestures for you to come over, and at the same time, Vorix Vot sees Claremont and immediately sets about, he starts setting up the lectern, preparing for the presentation. Claremont waves you over. Gentlemen, it's a joy to see each of you. I hope that you were successful with your preparations today.
Prior preparation prevents poor performance, sir.
Quadruple P, like I always say, Calathiel.
I learned that from you, Captain.
I would love to introduce all of you. This is my a long time pen pal, a new time friend, Errol Point. This is the arboreal seismologist I have been working with, whose research I have been collaborating on, with regards to the rootquakes that affect this area. And I think Errol Point nods very solemnly at each of you. Hello. He's a quiet.
I can't wait to pick your brain. I have so many ideas about kind of realizing that this man doesn't want to talk as much as he does quite yet.
I think
Nice
he
to meet
pulls
you.
back slightly, and the tendrils around his head kind of stiffen a little as you come in hot, and he's
In time. Coffee for you, sir.
the catcher shakes his head, and Claremont, bring two over. This is going to be a real doozy. We've got important findings to share. Vorix, are you ready? Am I ready to go up yet? I'm sorry I couldn't give you the full synopsis later. Errol and I really needed to dial down some of our findings. What I have to share is not the kind of thing I share lightly or without certainty.
Captain, what is this all about? Get on with it.
Aye, Reese, it's about the rootquakes, and it's about what our next mission is, where we go next on this wild journey of exploration and discovery.
On this wild sea.
On this sea, which
Wow,
has gone
it really is a wild sea, isn't it?
And so, I think Vorix Vot has set up a small, microphone on the lectern. And there's maybe a small table set next to the lectern as well for some of the extra papers. And Claremont, takes his time. He goes up there and he starts bringing us some bound folders, laying them out on the lectern, studying them. And, the room kind of slowly the conversation starts to filter out and die down as it becomes clear that Claremont is about to speak, right? And we've moved into the kind of presentation portion of tonight's entertainment. And so I think, he gets up there and Errol Point is standing kind of next to and slightly behind him and is also sorting some of these papers, ready to hand them over to Claremont. And, Claremont takes the microphone. Excuse me, yes, is this on? Yes. And his voice is, resonates throughout the chamber. There are a few of these speakers set up on either ends, brass piping running up the ceiling into a wired box at the top. Greetings, everyone, my fellow luminaries from the Lantern Society, and other assembled arconauts and intellectuals, and those with a curiosity about this world that we find ourselves in and what might be done with it. This is my first time here in Caldermere. I met many of you who were here the night before, but it is my first time presenting, and it's quite an honor. I've heard many great things about the Scholars' Cup, and of course, a round of applause for our host, Vorix Vot, who has arranged all of this and whose coffee is, sip, delectable. I had hoped to present to all of you here some notes on my current research with regards to, as I have referred to it, the true ontology of the Wildsea and its resulting shape. But alas, more pressing matters have made it necessary to delay that delivery, despite some admittedly fascinating concepts and implications. But another day. This is Errol Point. Some of you may be familiar with him already. He and I have been corresponding about the rootquakes in the Caldermere region for some time. In fact, we first began a correspondence after I read a little philosophical musing from Errol about the importance of the field of arboreoseismology and the relative lack of respect that it has received in certain circles, despite the importance to our overall understanding of occurrences and other such things on the Wildsea. As he once asked, and I'm going to quote you here, Errol, I hope that's okay. The firmament shifts ceaselessly, but why and to what end? As you all know, a red messenger flew overhead last night, and it was accompanied by a violent shaking of roots that shook this city itself. We were all there, we felt it. Did you not feel it, gentlemen? And he gestures to you guys.
I felt it, Captain.
I felt it, Captain.
Sorry.
Yes, we all felt it. Him too? Yes, he felt it. Thank you.
What about Hex? Did he feel it?
Hey, you in the back, can you feel it?
For over a decade, my friend here, Errol, has studied and recorded the rootquakes, trying to find the answer to this question of why. The shaking boughs are known for them. It's a simple fact of life for so many of this reach's inhabitants. But why? What causes them? And what does that mean for us? It was a question we sought to answer in our research, an idle curiosity, one more piece of the puzzle of the great whole. But our research has revealed something ominous, something worrying. We've been looking at the record of the recent rootquakes. You might have all noticed, certainly, they've become more frequent, more intense lately. We thought perhaps there was a cycle, something we could understand. And we were more correct than we had ever thought we would be. Our research has revealed there is a pattern to the rootquakes we have been experiencing here in the shaking boughs, a kind of rhythm to them, an unnatural regularity. And I think he spreads out, he starts holding up these papers, and they're like seismographic charts over and over. And, it's one of those things where I think probably no one can actually intuit the pattern he's talking about just from him showing them, but he starts showing them as evidence. Again, an uptick, a drop, an uptick, and then finally a climax, a height of intensity, and each time a little bit more. There is no way to know how powerful these rootquakes will become, how long they will be continuing this pattern, but we've done a bit of math. The quakes last night were the peak of this repeating pattern, and they shook the walls of a city that has withstood over a century of rootquake. The pattern will begin again soon. And then he stops, and he looks around the room, and he looks at Errol, and then he stops and he looks and he reaches into his waistcoat. He pulls out a pocket watch, puts it back. The pattern will be repeating soon. Stops. Looks around once more. Well, there's no way to know, and then a rootquake shakes the roof. A minor one, a small tremor, the kind of thing you start to not even notice if you've lived in Caldermere long enough. But he,
gasps around the room. Gasps.
Both of my coffees are spilling.
China's shaking against like saucers, right? Like cups shaking against saucers. As I said, last night was the peak. If they continue in this cycle of escalation uninterrupted, who knows what might happen to the good people here in Caldermere, to the great science that is done in this place, to this grand bastion of civilization on the Wildsea. He raises a hand as if to stop a protest that has not started. I have spoken already. I have sent my missives and research to the Council of Reverence and Tradition, which governs matters such as this in Caldermere, the overseers of the city's operations. I bring my research here to you tonight because I believe that the people in this room, these are the people who can understand what is happening and who could perhaps prevent a tragedy that might occur. There's more to our research. It's not just a pattern. It's a localization. They're originating from somewhere. You look at the regular distribution of a rootquake, they happen all over the shaking boughs, but this rhythm, this pattern, they are coming from somewhere. There is an origin. There is a source. And who better than those who illuminate the way to find that source and put an end to whatever havoc it seeks to wreak? And I think, he kind of, I think, reaches like into this lectern. He pulls out another folder and he holds it in the air and then places it down. I've made copies of my research, all of the data that we have, all the findings that we've had. It is my intention to bring my crew out on the Wildsea tomorrow and head to the east in search of the origin point of these rootquakes, to find what is causing them, to understand it, and to perhaps prevent utter calamity here in Caldermere. I've come to speak to all of you today, hoping that you will join me in just such a cause, that we might all set out and, in our concerted effort, drag the net, as it were, and find the source of this uninterrupted pattern. And he clears his throat. I have the copies here, if you would all come and grab one, and I'm happy to answer any questions this evening about what we've discovered, what we believe might be on the other end of this, and how we intend to handle it. But I hope each of you will join me in putting to praxis the grand philosophical values of our organization, of our respective organizations. And he glances now, I think, at the most markedly at the Spiritist Assembly group, these sort of death-obsessed goths in the back, but also to some of the others who are not bearing the lantern's mark, right? I have great faith that amongst this assembly, at least one of us will be able to find the origin of these rootquakes and perhaps save Caldermere.
Save Caldermere. We're all gonna die here in Caldermere.
I guess I would like well, I was gonna say, as soon as Claremont stops talking, I just imagine the room like erupts in crosstalk. Like debate where it's like ridiculous, blah 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 blah, like like Parliament, just breaks out in like debate.
Caldermere has always had rootquakes. Do you think they're gonna break the city down now? I saw the great rootquake.
And there's others like, well, rootquakes a normal cycle of the Wildsea. Without the rootquakes, of course, tall shanks would rot where they grow today. It's like there's just a thousand different opinions on what he's just said. But I think maybe Calathiel would speak up, because this is something somewhat personal to him, and say, Captain, you speak as though you feel it's a problem to solve. You think this is an unnatural movement?
I think I think he gives you a grateful look as he speaks into the mic, and the crowd kind of quiets a bit. An excellent question, Calathiel. Yes, this is not the kind of... Nature is full of patterns. Errol here. Errol, would you speak to it? No? Okay. Well, he's shy. But Errol is the foremost expert that I've ever met on the patterns and mechanisms of rootquakes. There is a rhythm to nature. We all know this. You get tired at night, you wake up in the morning, that sort of thing. This is precise. It is, as you saw with my excellent display, a thing that can be timed and noticed. It is perfect in its repetition, in a way that nothing else I have ever seen on this Wildsea has ever been.
What sorts of... I shouldn't speak out of turn. There's much more learned men assembled here than I. But were I to hazard a guess, if I may...
Vorex's Vot has come over and he has like a smaller handheld microphone that he's given you.
Yeah, and like maybe 3 to 6 of Cal's hands are like trembling from the strong caffeine. I'm a raw, untapped caffeine drinker here. My neural pathway is opening for the first time. But could this be coming from the forest floor, perhaps beneath? Could something so large as this swallow a city?
And I think, he takes a very serious look at you and he says, yes, Calathiel, I'm very worried that just that could happen, that we might lose all of Caldermere if we don't band together and set out as soon as possible to find the source of this. Now,
but that'd be near impossible. The tangles beneath the tangle is too dangerous to pass.
And I think another amplified voice comes from across the other side of the room. It is this woman in the Victorian morning dress. And she has, I think, the ironbound next to her has reached his palm out, and she is speaking into it, and as she does, her voice is amplified through the speaker on his stomach.
Cool.
You all know me here. My name is Agnes Peril, and I am the captain of the Ocean Retort. Death is an inevitable part of any cycle on the Wildsea. We live on the back of a ghost. If it is Caldermere's destiny to die again, then it will. Nothing is to be gained from trying to penetrate the undereaves. Your little friend is right, Claremont. We're better off getting those who want to out of the city than we are trying to stop whatever this is.
I was thinking more someone might have a submersible or something impervious to the depths, but perhaps this dour Lumineer.
I'm not one of yours. The necessity of light has never spoken to me. I and my crew are part of the Spiritist Assembly. Just to be clear, no ill will meant towards you and yours.
I think just kind of like leaning over to Reese, was like, I'm not sure what her deal is, but I think I've upset her.
I've never met a woman like this before.
And I think at this point, like, some people have started
She paints a grim picture of life, and I don't care for it.
Is it true? This whole world.
I hope for our sakes it's not.
And so I think, at this point, some people have started to filter up. They are grabbing copies of this, the research that, like, Claremont has provided, right? These, like, kind of, like, loosely stapled together sheafs of, like, seismological readings. I think there's, like, kind of sketched maps of, like, Caldermere and then points, like, kind of east of it. And I think Claremont again, everything that Errol and I have found is in these papers to share with each of you. We believe that the origin of this is to the east. And if good luck is on our side, perhaps it will be in the bows, not in the darkness below. But we will do our best to find it, even if it means braving that which lies beneath the tangle. We will go to the furthest depths our ships can take us to save Caldermere.
For Caldermere.
And yeah, it does start a cheer.
Yeah.
Right? For Caldermere,
Yeah.
And I think Claremont steps down. Right, he steps off of the kind of like a little raised stage away from the lectern, and I think he rejoins the crew. And as people are coming up and asking him questions, but it's kind of set the room abuzz as like the crews that are here have clearly all started kind of looking at this stuff together, starting to talk amongst each other about their plans. And he returns to each of you. He says, "Well, Verdigale, these are my findings. There is something afoot here in the Wildsea around Caldermere, something that is shaking the very firmament, causing these rootquakes in a way that seems unnatural. I suppose this is your last chance to bow out, as it were. I intend on driving the Verdigale into the heart of this source and discovering what causes it."
We were hired for a job, Captain, and I'm not going to leave it now. I think with the early detection system I've rigged up, we're going to be one tick ahead of the clock you have. We'll be able to determine, with your studies in my machine, just what we are facing. And I think that if we are indeed about to sail into the heart of it, is going to give us a leg up, a steadier footing for whatever storm we are sailing into. I'll have to take a minute to look over all of the research, but I think with what you've done and what I've rigged up, we'll be on steadier ground, as much as we can be with rootquakes on the sea.
And I think he slaps you on the shoulder. He's brilliant. Bright days ahead for the crew of the Verdigale. And I think, our camera, as he does this, looks over Hex's shoulder, right? We're on the eastern side of the inner rim of the caldera, and so we're looking out towards the west. And we can see that the broad line of storm clouds out to the west has moved closer towards Caldermere, right? It is at a dark splotch in the sky as the sun lights up the sky in brilliant golds and pinks. Anyway, and I think Claremont looks at each of you and he says, There are going to be great challenges ahead, but there's no crew I'd rather be setting out on this journey with than you all.
I actually met a couple of pretty seasoned wild sailors that I think would be a great benefit to the crew, who might be more experienced. But I'm not that worried about the storm if Hex isn't.
I think it's a couple days out. So as long as we start heading east and follow the meteor and stop these quakes, the storm is less of an issue to me. But sooner than later.
And I have a package to deliver.
Perfect. You know that I embrace and support the mission of the word bearers. You are what makes the life you make life on the Wildsea possible, Reese.
Many are saying this.
Well, I'm aware that we're all pretty hyped up on caffeine right now. But I do think it would be best if we adjourn back to the Verdigale and get ourselves as good a night's rest as we can and prepare to set sail tomorrow morning to the east in search of the source of these rootquakes and perhaps the final destination of the Red Messenger which flew over us last night. It is I don't know if it's a hope or a fear, but it's my belief that the two things might not be totally disconnected.